here we are with good old ZertoN in the blue, spawning in the northern side, and SortOf in the red, spawning in that southwestern side. We'll check in on these spawn locations for the Mongols, and definitely going to heavily favor SortOf as far as the spawn location goes. He's right up tucked up next to the gold, tucked up next to the wood line, and his Uvu is not even a short stone's throw away. Whereas ZertoN, he's in a bit of predicament here. He's got a lot longer time for his villagers to do some walking.
Yeah, maybe he should have thought about just going to bite the bullet and just move the TC a little bit more, because there's an excellent TC spot next to the gold, next to the stone there, if he just places it next to the other woodline. But then again, it's going to delay your TC quite a bit. It's going to delay villager production, and usually you don't want that. So he's just opting to go for that a little bit worse TC placement here. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one in these Mongol spawns. A lot can come down to just the RNG, and now we see the Khan actually sniping that sheep that is trailing behind the Gur here for certain. And yeah, I mean that's just one of the small annoyances in life. And oh man, getting 2 more sheep now in the back of the base as well. Really looking good to start here for SortOf.
Yeah, and SortOf already has 170 wood in the bank. I'm wondering if he's waiting to see the base of ZertoN before he either opts to drop a barracks or opts to drop a pastures. And it is a barracks that he drops. He hasn't quite seen the whole base, but there will be some spearmen out. And it looks like ZertoN just spotted out that barracks going down as well.
Yeah, I think he saw the gold and he was immediately like, oh, yep, that's my opportunity. That's where I'm going to be hitting. And he saw the pasture as well, so he knows that ZertoN isn't going to be going for barracks anytime soon. ZertoN, though, he is still gathering quite a lot of wood, so might actually be going for barracks here. And this might be coming as a bit of a surprise here for SortOf, because he saw the pastures. He's like, yeah, there's not going to be a barracks, but indeed, we do have a barracks here coming out for ZertoN.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of wood investment this early on out of ZertoN. He will have to, I'm sure he'll pull a couple of those villagers back off of wood, go back heavier onto the food to be able to produce some of those spearmen and start getting closer to that kind of feudal age timing and equalize the production from the other side.
Yeah, there we go. We see double produced spearmen now making their way over to that gold mine of ZertoN. Might actually just start focusing down the Uvu as it is so exposed. Villager accompanying them. So we are going to be seeing a tower rush here from our Mongol player in the red.
Yeah, and honestly, I might just expect that outpost to go on top of the Uvu. If he can secure up the Uvu and deny stone from ZertoN, that can be the difference maker in a Mongol mirror. You can double produce, your opponent can't, and it gets to the point where you can take down the Uvu, get your raid bonus, but also that denies stone for the remainder until they can produce up another Uvu.
And disadvantage is still going to be a thing here, though, because ZertoN, he does have his barracks in his base, so he's going to be able to reinforce a little bit quicker here. And with the Khan also being now relatively close to his military, one signaling arrow for movement speed, and that villager might go down.
Yeah, the 4 spears from ZertoN immediately spot out the 2 that have moved forward. Just how you said, the rest of the massive SortOf, he has the numbers, but he doesn't have the numbers together. And that's really going to be the key, is just kind of keeping together, keeping the most efficient fights, trying to give himself a little bit of a lead here with the Khan firing down, but ZertoN joins on in the fight with his Khan.
And right now we have 8 spears for SortOf, only 6 for ZertoN. However, ZertoN has all of his spears together. Now SortOf also has 6 spears in the front. He still has that one villager just going around the edge of the map and trying to drop a cheeky outpost on the gold.
Ooh. Micro by SortOf pulling back that low health spearman and then moving back forward, and a spearman pops out. This actually could be big if any attacks go down on it. Not too much luck there from SortOf. How's that out?
Take a look at that villager. Yeah, he's around the gold, and I think there's going to be an outpost coming in there really shortly. He just needs a little bit of wood right now in order to place it. And I think ZertoN right now, he has no clue that that's going to be coming in soon.
No, you could see how far and how tucked up next to the edge of the map SortOf was. I think that this is just going to be an absolute huge shock to ZertoN once this outpost starts getting built or ends up going up, which would be even worse.
SortOf is producing a lot of spearmen right now, already up to 13 spears compared to 9 on ZertoN's side. And I mean, behind this though, ZertoN is looking to be going up to the feudal age a little bit sooner than SortOf, and that might mean that as soon as he's able to hit that feudal age timing, he can get that upgrade in for his spearmen and suddenly be taking some really good fights, even with lower amount of units here. And now I think, no, he's still not enough wood. I think SortOf is just using too much of his, too much of his wood goes into the spearmen, not enough to just drop that outpost, and that allowed ZertoN to get enough gold in order to go up to the next stage now.
Yeah, he actually had like 2 or 3 in queue with like 70 wood. He could have technically canceled those, started the outpost, and then had a little bit of idle time in spearman queue. But again, his spearman number is way healthier than ZertoN. He needs to start getting that outpost up sooner than later to attempt to deny that long-term goal.
Yeah, I think he only just now dropped it, so it's still gonna be a little bit of time. Yet there it is, there it goes. And I mean, potentially, if ZertoN wins the fight as soon as he gets that feudal age upgrade, he could just use his spearman in order to torch down the outpost ASAP. He's also going to have a stronger Khan, so he's going to be able to just pick off some of those weak spearmen that are being microed back here from SortOf. That also is going to be playing a big role here.
Yeah, it's one of those that's just like a little bit too much of an overcommitment. The upgrade immediately starts coming through for ZertoN, and sort of needs to fall back. Hasn't even dropped his own feudal age, just now is starting it up, and will need to try to match up that timing a little bit before he actually fights.
Right now, SortOf also going up to the next age. Outpost should be just about complete now. It's better for him if he doesn't put any units inside of it, so it doesn't fire early on. He just wants to wait until he's in the feudal age, and then he's able to get the arrow slits. Also takes a couple of his spears and sends him over to that outpost. Khan actually went down here.
GG.
SortOf lost Khan there for just a second.
GG
I guess
is
that's game then.
in the chat. Absolutely. Khan goes down. It's just all but over. But in the reality, this is right where ZertoN, he's feudal age. He can start making moves. He can start doing things that feudal age opens up to that SortOf really would want to get vision.
This is also really big. I mean, ZertoN, I think he realized that there's an outpost there, and then he just pulled his Gur away, and now he's just going to be able to mine on the other side. I mean, both of those gold mines are really exposed, so it doesn't really matter which one you're going to go to. It's always going to be a little bit of an exposed gold mine. But the one that he could go to now, he has the option of just making an outpost there, and it'll be much more safe.
Yeah, exactly that. And ZertoN going with a third pastures into the mix. Doesn't have a gold that he has resecured yet. Starting to burn down the Uvu of SortOf, and SortOf's going to want to defend this up, but this is the same position we were talking about earlier. He can't take the fight until his spearman upgrade comes through. He's going to bring a villager over, try to heal this up, try to start fighting in before the spearman upgrade. Raid bounty is already over, and Uvu goes down. This is huge.
That's a good amount of value. Yeah, this is really, really big. SortOf now also going for an archer range, but ZertoN has already dropped his, and he's already producing archers at the same time.
Yeah, and no double production is going to be able to come out for SortOf, as he doesn't have an Uvu in place, doesn't have stone starting to gather, as we see ZertoN's is just trickling on up, and every single second that he is down on that stone count is just more and more falter.
Take back what I said earlier. I think ZertoN doesn't know that there's an outpost there, and that means that arrow slits in placement is going to be coming in now, and as soon as that is being researched, all of those villagers that just went back over to that gold mine are going to have to relocate once again.
Yeah, it looked like the spears, the 5 spears that SortOf split over, were going to try to circle around and get back into that outpost.
Oh, no.
New Khan rises. The Uvu immediately starts getting burnt down yet again. Does SortOf have the numbers here? Does he have enough to defend this?
I mean, the archers now, they're just firing up on the archers, and that means that SortOf has to retreat a little bit, and yeah, it's definitely going to start catching fire again. Bounty going over the way to ZertoN once again, and I think he can just commit and burn it down completely again. That's 300 wood worth of resources there for.
And double raid bonus coming in for ZertoN. So not only is it lacking resources for SortOf, it's bonus resources for ZertoN. And look at what look at the resources in the bank for ZertoN. Yes, he might have that gold being idled and annoyed. Actually, I don't think it's in range with the one less range on the arrow slits upgrade from the forever ago update.
does seem to be pulling back now, though, so it might have been just 1 or 2 villagers that were in range. This is really annoying right now, because that means that he can't go up to the next age immediately. We can see he's already prepping an outpost now next to that gold mine. That's a little bit more forward. Also has a good amount of archers right now, however, SortOf is matching that, and he has a lot more spearmen right now. I mean, at least he's going to have the home advantage with the Yam network, so he's going to be able to just maneuver a little bit better, a little bit easier here. Might actually be able to just hit the ball once. Doesn't opt for that one. Yeah, he's going to need to rush up that outpost here ASAP.
Yeah, he does have a good amount of archer numbers here, and that's the big benefit. He has, 7 or so archers compared to only 4 moving forward for SortOf. SortOf's other archers are kind of just trailing back and slower in that production.
So right now, still looking really, really good for ZertoN, I would say. I mean, the economy is going to be really nice. Now he also has that outpost, so the outpost, it's not quite in range really to protect the Uvu. So the Uvu here for ZertoN might be a little bit too exposed. That might be a point of contention here for SortOf. However, as he said, the archer advantage in terms of the archers that are currently forward might be able to buy him a lot of time here. And now we see H-up coming in for ZertoN as SortOf instead opted for a second TC.
That's the big difference there. Stepped without being dropped, yet SortOf opts for his secondary TC. Isn't too far behind as far as overall resources in the bank, and might actually be able to get a Castle Age timings that's not too delayed to allow ZertoN to get any sort of massive foothold as far as relics or Castle Age units and things like that. But still definitely looking in favor of ZertoN right now with Castle Age already going down.
The archers with the Yamara are actually able to take down all of the reinforcements here coming in for SortOf, and those are some really, really valuable picks here.
Yeah, it's just anytime that resources and units are just being thrown away without getting anything in return, it just feels so bad if you're that player. Survival techniques coming on in.
Makes sense. He did go for those deer towards the middle, so getting the extra efficiency there. But now SortOf is going to be like, oh no, my opponent is going to be Castle Age now. What is going to go? What is he going to be able to do now? I think he's going to have to rush to Castle Age himself now as well. We see ZertoN using his spears now in order to torch down that outpost that got dropped earlier. But I think ZertoN right now, he's going to just try and focus on getting the relics, maybe get a couple of upgrades for his archers, just be able to take some good trades here in the mid game now, just because he knows that SortOf has a lot of units. He needs to reduce that mass right now.
Right.
And then maybe get the relics.
Exactly, and I mean, map control is usually the biggest thing that comes into contention, especially once Castle Age starts coming out, and you're the Mongols. Those outposts, instead of just little weak arrow slits, they become nice old strong springled emplacements, and that would be one of the things that I wouldn't be too surprised to see ZertoN do, is grab up, a villager or two and just put some outposts in some of these spots with stealth forest to get some vision, get some map control, and see what's coming.
We see SortOf also going for that Castle Age timing of his own. Prayer Tent already up for ZertoN, however, I think SortOf is not going to be too far behind here. He does have that second TC, and that is definitely going to scale his economy really, really well here. It doesn't look like ZertoN is going to be going for a second TC of his own at all right now. At least he's not gathering the wood that he would need for it. And I mean, the upgrades right now are in for ZertoN. With the veterancy upgrade on his archers, it's going to be really, really tough for SortOf to really take any favorable engagements here.
Is that Uvu out of stone for ZertoN? I think no, for ZertoN, not SortOf. I think SortOf still has a little bit in it because it got destroyed a couple times, but the Uvu for ZertoN is fully out, so he won't be producing any stone for the time being. Needs to rebuild his Uvu elsewhere.
Does seem to be down right now. I mean, he might still... Actually, no, it doesn't.
Oh, there it is. He's rebuilding
there it
Uvu
is,
elsewhere. And right as SortOf's Uvu gets destroyed, he's not going to care about this one as much as the others, because there wasn't much stone left in that camp. However, it's still extra raid bonus that gets to go over towards ZertoN and help snowball just a little bit more. The pastures going down would be massive. Oh, it's gone.
Take a
That's
lot
gone.
of damage. Yep. When they're packed up, they don't have any more armor, meaning archers do full damage to those. Really, really does hurt. Khan going by the TC almost goes down. Does manage to survive though. Man-at-Arms now coming out for SortOf.
Yep, second relic being pulled back in for ZertoN, so starting to get that macro play coming in. Crossbows has the minute arms. Wouldn't be too surprised to see advanced siege engineering and eventually have those siege units coming on in.
And right now we see that SortOf also is doing a really, really good job of just having units at pretty much all the close relic spots that are close to ZertoN right now. He has units on the top side, he has units on the right side, and just tries to deny the relics for as long as possible. It looks like the Spearman is actually going to get a pick here. Is that a Shaman? Yeah, that looks to be a Shaman that is going to go down here.
That's actually a pretty big pickup for a Spearman. The first, another Lancer gets taken out, and the Khan's trying to get chased down, as well as yet another good old Shaman, Imam, whatever they're called, moving out for an additional relic. Oh, no Uvu for SortOf.
That could have been a really good.
Oh my gosh!
Uvu.
I think I saw him just start to.
Produced
I think I saw him just start to build one where his original Uvu placement was. Oh,
No,
he
please
canceled.
no.
He canceled it. He just canceled it. He just canceled it.
Oh, okay, he probably misclicked that. That's another one to the left. Okay. Oh,
He might have just done one of those things where he was looking at the map, he saw the stone and just clicked on it, and then realized, oh no, that's the one that has no stone. But another pickup as far as these shamans go, so another denied relic, at least for the time being, but SortOf isn't capturing those up himself and isn't really taking map control back. He's just been trying to deny ZertoN from capturing all these relics and then doing what he wants to do.
I think that's pretty much enough. That's pretty much all he has to do right now. And I mean, the relics are looking in favor of ZertoN right now, but that second TC, it has been up for a while now for SortOf. And looks like ZertoN, yeah, he did go for a second TC off his own, so he's going to be able to keep up when it comes to the villagers here. But it's still, I mean, 10 villager difference right now, that's I mean, 3 relics, 300 res, 10 villagers, might be pretty much even, I would say. But in the later stages of the game, you really want to have those relics.
Yeah, you're definitely right. When it comes to the longer point in the game, the relics become more important because it's that passive gold. We all know that gold will eventually run out of the map. We know that, as we just see villagers get raided in on, there's idle time that can happen. But relics inside of a prayer tent, they don't get idled unless that prayer tent gets taken down or moving on around.
Some fights here towards the middle. A good amount of crossbows now also being there for ZertoN, and this is a really good mass right now. ZertoN, though, I mean, overall, the mass is in favor of SortOf, and he's luring him to his main army. And now, suddenly, Lancer goes down, movement speed arrow is coming out. And no, actually, that's the attack speed arrow. Never mind. Attack speed arrow also coming out for SortOf. And now those two are clashing here towards the middle. But army count for SortOf just being better, and now the archers are also moving forward now to take down the crossbowmen.
Yeah, archers focusing down the crossbows is huge because that allows the men-at-arms to be that tanky front line. So this is a huge, huge, huge fight, huge turnaround for SortOf right here.
ZertoN grabbing a 4th relic behind all of this. However, SortOf does seem to notice and now might be able to intercept that shaman from going back to the prayer tent.
Yeah, just maybe right before it gets all the way back. He will have to build an additional prayer tent. I'm not sure if he has already done that yet or if he just wants to deny the relic over from the side of SortOf. Secondary town center starting to help out a little bit, but helping out on top of men-at-arms, which doesn't do too much damage. Khan goes down yet again for SortOf.
I mean, how many times can you avoid the GG here? But right now, SortOf, he is still in a commanding position, still 10 villages ahead, does have the military advantage right now.
Oh no, SortOf has
get one of the relics.
Half of his vills on that gold mine are dropping off at the town center rather than the stepped redoubt for SortOf. Oh,
That hurts when you don't take full advantage of your S tier landmark. Okay.
He just
at the same
ran
time,
out,
certain he's. Yeah, I mean now at least he notices now he has to relocate, so it's gonna be better for him from now on. Also has made a mangonel, so all of the crossbowmen, all of the archers that ZertoN has made so far are gonna be discounted from here on out. And okay, that's a lot of ranged units trying to take down the outpost. I mean they're gonna get it, but it's
I mean,
It's gonna take him a small while here.
as far as an arrowsless outpost, I think this has paid off like 12-fold. I mean, that's totally, SortOf's totally fine with that. He's starting to mass up forward. He's taking the map control further forward, where you just saw the ZertoN's moved on to kind of that forward wood line. He's had to move on to his back gold. The deer that were front and forward for SortOf just ran out, and I'm wondering what those villagers will decide to do. But the military mass for SortOf is booming on up. He has a ton of men-at-arms. He's got spearmen, but more importantly, he has siege. And siege can be just such a detrimental thing when it comes to 27 crossbows on the opposite side.
I think at this point in time, with him going for a trebuchet as well, that would really warrant the research of that bounty upgrade to just get a little bit more out of every single building that you destroy. It really does go a long way. There have been games where players were able to come back just from being able to siege down buildings, even if they were behind economically overall. The military is still looking really, really strong here for SortOf compared to ZertoN. 77 compared to 53, and as you said, with the siege advantage right now, it's looking grim, but ZertoN, he's not giving up yet. He's prepping 3 Springles behind this.
Yeah, and SortOf trying to prep up some Springles himself. This is going to be the key, is who is going to win the siege war. And that's a 4th and 5th Springle, I think, coming out from ZertoN's side. Maybe just 4. Even still, though, if you're able to just snipe down a couple of these trebuchets, you get such a good return for those Springles, and you can keep that mass alive. No, why is it? Oh my.
Okay, I don't know why the Springles went back there for a second. They should have, but it did allow that trebuchet to stay alive. That was a close one for sure otherwise.
Yeah, trebuchet decided to start moving forward. Villagers trying to build an outpost to give ZertoN just a little bit more vision, but SortOf trying to do the same. Both of them are trying to creep up with outposts, but who will actually take the bigger fight and take down the masses on the opposite side?
ZertoN has managed to gather to like closing the gap between the military count so far. So now it's 99 against. Wait, actually, what happened there?
Yeah, he's down 30 still.
What happened there? I could swear that for a second I saw him being at like 80 or something. Maybe I'm just hallucinating right now, but yeah, I mean, the military advantage in that guy is still in the favor of SortOf. But wait, that's a lot of.
That
pastures.
is so many. He's gonna have sheep till next game.
It's a lot. And look at it. He's building them around the prayer tent. If it gets to Imperial Age, he can get the upgrade where his prayer tent is gonna have the influence of the Uwu. That means that all of these pastures are gonna be producing way faster.
There's also 7 Springles on the side of ZertoN, so the military mass for SortOf, yes, he does have the lead, but he needs to make sure that his siege stays alive, because that is the very high value units.
SortOf right now at 200 population, he really needs to start doing some damage here. I mean, he can't really wait much longer. He does have the military lead right now, but now we see a lot of the Springles being there. Still no frontline mass though for ZertoN. He does have a lot of crossbowmen, but no meat shield for them at all right now, and they have to run because the trebuchet, the mangonel, if it gets a shot off, that could be very bad here for ZertoN.
Yeah, and the main second TC is just kind of has now the main army mass in front of it. Not only that, there's production buildings that has that mass, and hopefully, SortOf, his plan is to probably move forward, continue to siege down more stuff, and move that outpost line forward for himself.
Also have double siege workshops here now in the back for ZertoN, so he really wants to win that siege war.
Yeah, he needs to go ahead and get the greased axles. If he doesn't have it, I think he does. But the key right now is to just make sure that his siege will stay alive and can counter out the opposite side. Mangonel gets a huge shot on and has not been focused down yet. The Springles are focusing down the opposite side Springles, and this will allow potentially the military master SortOf to run on through. All of the siege went down for SortOf, and SortOf's actually falling back. All of a sudden, the military numbers, ZertoN, he's getting closer to equalizing. He won out the siege war there as he took down all of the siege on the opposite side.
I think I know what that was. I think ZertoN, he did grab that upgrade where his signaling arrow is going to last longer. And then with that upgrade in combination, when you use the signaling arrow for attack speed, all of these ranged units, they have the attack speed buff for a lot longer. So that means that ZertoN there, he was able to take a really good trade here. But sort of behind all of this, he now knows that his opponent is mainly composed of range units. Now he's going to go into Horsemen.
Yeah, and the Horsemen, they're so detrimental not only against ranged units, but what we were just talking about with siege. Like, how will ZertoN be able to protect up his siege? Yeah, he can try to surround it with archers and crossbows, but Horsemen, they're very effective, as well as Lancers, but I think Horsemen would be the better option, especially with all of the food you're able to produce with nice and safe food economy with pastures.
SortOf is going to be losing a lot of outposts here in the front, though. That means that a lot of bounty is going to go the way of ZertoN here. Lots of stables being prepped from SortOf, and he is going to produce as many horsemen as he can afford right now. 8 in the queue, as well as veterancy for those horsemen. He really wants to win this next engagement, but still, right now, 9 Springles out on the map for ZertoN, and he's going to go up to the Imperial Age now as well.
He's going up to Imperial, and is this going to be too greedy? Is this going to be the right timed Imperial, or will this be the downfall of ZertoN that said, hey, maybe you should have produced a few more units, sort of back up at 200 population? Yet again, not the first time it's happened this game, but will this next fight go a little bit better for him? Springald's moving up, trying to get the first jump surprise attack, and the Trebuchets move up at the same time for ZertoN.
Springles taking shots on the Springles, and now the horsemen are in there as well. ZertoN will have to move in between these buildings in order to create a choke point here for these crossbowmen to take the maximum efficient fights that they can. And now Trebuchets are going to go down, though. Imperial Age has now come in. This has to be the moment where SortOf goes all in here with this military.
Yeah, I mean, Imperial Age comes in and you're already making a press forward. You just continue up that press. Springald's find another pick, looking to just get more and more of those Springald's down on the opposite side. The one Trebuchet from SortOf behind this should move up and start trying to siege down outposts, siege down production. But more importantly, SortOf could just try to just idle out any of these eco units on the side of ZertoN.
Looks like he's pulling back, though. Formation, siege units are being left behind. Could potentially find themselves getting sniped as Rolling Shadow Triggers is currently being researched and will soon come in. And then it's going to be a one-way ticket to the afterlife for these Springles, because just with more range, it's going to be impossible to take beneficial trades here. And a lot of elite upgrades coming in as well. Yeah,
once Roller Shutter Trigger comes through, it feels like you can just shoot from like a full screen over. You're like, where are my Springles getting killed from? And it's like, oh, that is where they're getting killed from. Would love to see SortOf, while he pushed through there, focus in on the prayer tent, as if he were able to deny that. That would be so much over the course of time, with those 3 relics just sitting there for the taking, it seems, right in front of his face.
Yeah, right now he is focusing on taking down some of these production buildings, but Roll Shutting Triggers coming in closer and closer, and right now, I mean, he is able to deny all of the production buildings right now for ZertoN. ZertoN is not able to make any units out of that. He's right now sitting at 54 military. I think if SortOf just stays here, he could be in a position to win the game.
Yeah, Springles are starting to get sniped down from those other sides, as not even Roller Shutter Triggers has come through. It's just been a couple preferential trades, but Horsemen circle around, get on top of a few of those Springles at the same time. Mangonels are firing down on top of the pastures, on top of the main TC, gets taken out. Mangonel pops out for ZertoN and immediately gets focused down by a couple Horsemen that are right there.
Oh man, this fight is just really messy right now. However, ZertoN is not taking the worst trades here. Now the Springles have Rolling Shot. Actually, no, they still don't have that upgrade. It's been researching for like 2 minutes, what feels like now. And I mean, he is able to push SortOf back out of his base now, and that is huge. He did lose a good amount of villagers, but for now he is going to be able to stay safe. And now Roll Shutting Triggers does complete, and we can see that that range is going to be immense when it comes to just pushing SortOf out of his base.
Yeah, SortOf, though. He has 4 Trebs alive. He still has, you know, the military mass in for a little bit of the time. He's secured up 2 Sacred Sites behind this. He would like to have secured the 3rd one, but he has his Shaman standing right next to it. It would have started ticking down at least a win condition, but more importantly for him, well, he just started capping it, as I said that, but more importantly for him, it equalizes the passive gold income that ZertoN's getting on the opposite side.
That's really important. Also, because of that non-stop aggression here that SortOf had for quite a long time, all of those pastures have been idle for a long time, and we can see that being reflected in the food count right now for certain. He doesn't have a lot of food floating, and he also doesn't have that much being gathered right now. Behind all of this, SortOf could also soon be able to go to the Imperial Age himself, and he still has a lot of trebuchets just waging war upon the infrastructure of SortOf. However, now we see with the upgrades for the siege for certain, he might be able to push out soon enough here.
Yeah, it's just going to be all about that timing. Starting to get some cannon emplacement on his outpost to hope to get that AoE protection up for himself. And, ooh, that's actually a bomber that immediately gets sniped down by a Springald on the opposite side. One Springald gets taken out, but as far as trades go, that is a huge trade in the benefit of SortOf. 2 more bombers are in queue.
Horsemen here right now, certain still only on crossbone, just added a couple of horsemen here, but these horseman numbers, they're not going to be good enough. They're also an elite horseman, I think. Actually, no, they might be elite. They have a little bit more armor on the back of their horses.
SortOf on his way up though, and won't be too far behind. And as far as eco goes, he's equivalent on the passive gold. He has a little bit of a bill count lead, and he has the extra military units, so he's basically max pop. All of his resources will be immediately transitioned into just a ton of techs right now.
Exactly, but he really needs to keep pressuring Recon certain right now. I don't think it's enough for him to just go up and right now and just try to get roller shotting triggers, because right now certain he does have way more Springals than SortOf. And also he's now on double bombards as well. He's getting close to PopCap himself, and with the army already having elite status right now, and I mean looking at the income right now, it's still way better for certain. SortOf really needs to keep pressuring certain here.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of been putting ZertoN on the back foot for a while, but ZertoN's gotten his chance to breathe. He's got a couple bombers out. He has a huge siege mass. Will he be able to protect up his siege mass based off of the comp SortOf has chosen? Oh, siege might have gone a little too forward. Not quite there. Horsemen decide to deny out the outpost that was attempted to be built by ZertoN.
Springald range is just so oppressive. They're even able to take down the horsemen here from that far range, and now we see certain is going to try and push out here. He has a lot of resource in the bank, and what he's struggling right now though with is golden come, and he really needs the net control now. He is going in.
Horseman wraps around on top of the siege. Mangonel's siege is able to fire, and the Springalds are turning back towards the horsemen. Those are not what the Springalds should be focusing down on. The main crossbow mass of ZertoN is the only thing really left, and the crossbows, they don't trade that efficiently into the horsemen. It looks like SortOf is actually winning this fight pretty well. He's cleared out the majority of the siege. He's starting to get on more and more of the crossbows. Hand cannoneers are popping out, but those hand cannoneers, they're just getting to the fight a little too late. Every single siege!
Oh no, this is so bad, and behind all of this SortOf still has 5 trebuchets. He's able to immediately take down all of the infrastructure that he's gonna have access to. And certain, without his Springals, he has no way to stop that siege ball from coming in. He's dropping a lot of stables right now just in order to produce as many horsemen as possible in order to get back into this. He has so many units queued up right now, but that's what they are, queued up. They're not out on the field. He doesn't have access to them immediately. I don't even know how many archery rangers he has right now, since a lot of his archery rangers did go down at the during the initial sieges here from SortOf. I've only seen him place stables right now, and there we go. We see a lot of archery rangers now also being dropped here from him. He probably just had only a couple of archery rangers producing a lot of hand cannoneers here.
Yeah, but SortOf got the raid bounty bonus. Loses 2 trebuchets to a couple of those roller shutter triggers, as SortOf does not have outposts down to give himself that vision that is so necessary, that's so required. But again, look at the population. It's 200. It's max pop out of SortOf, whereas ZertoN, he's down at 135. He is struggling heavily. If SortOf just pushes forward and pushes on through into the eco, this will just be a massive snowball. He did, like, the raid bonus upgrade is going to continually just feed him more and more and more resources from all of this pressure.
Getting that is just incredibly huge. You're getting so many resources here just from doing what you want to do anyway, sieging down your opponent's buildings, and it goes to show, like, he's just able to field his army non-stop. But still, like, there's a lot of resource in the bank for certain. He had quite a lot of gold in between, and we see him queuing up 14 hand cannoneers right now.
I mean, 14 hand cannoneers. I'm still not sure if that's going to be enough to be the difference here. SortOf just continuing to move that line further and further forward. He's just continuing to pressure everything coming out from ZertoN. ZertoN's placing production buildings, and then the next production building that's forward gets taken down. The prayer tent finally starting to get taken down, and if he loses these 3 relics, this was part of his lifeline, as that is just non-stop gold generation that's been coming in for 15 or so minutes now.
Still 19 hand cannons in the queue. It just feels like there isn't the production anymore for ZertoN right now. He had to rebuild so many of his archery ranges, and it took him quite a long time to do so. Now we see the prayer tent is going to go down here for ZertoN, as sort of just races straight towards the food economy from ZertoN.
Yeah,
Actually, no mind, he just goes straight for the Springles.
Yeah, straight to the Springles. He knows if his trebuchets are able to stay alive, continuing to move forward, continue to just take down building after building after building, it just becomes such a predicament for ZertoN.
ZertoN just trying to bide his time, just needs to get his army out, just needs to have them produced out on the field, but behind all of this, SortOf, he has caught up when it comes to the technologies. A lot of tech still coming in for him, but pretty much all the techs have been researched so far. Meanwhile, ZertoN, he is struggling when it comes to technologies, looking at the blacksmith upgrades. A couple of Springles now able to snipe the trebuchets, and now the 2 armies are starting to fight.
Springles trading on either side. The big thing, though, is that SortOf is like, you might think that he's being the aggressor here, but he is the one that is falling back. He's the one that has outposts right behind it, albeit not upgraded yet, but he has the military mass. ZertoN should not be taking this fight, and SortOf should just wipe the floor with it. As you just saw the rest of the Springles go down, he has the siege mass again, and the siege mass is going to be victorious. No more relics generating gold for ZertoN other than the one that is in the opposite side prayer tent.
A little bit of a raid here coming from ZertoN. Actually denies the entire gold income from that step redoubt, killing a good amount of villagers as well. I'm just not sure if that's going to be enough, because right now SortOf is just able to use trash units with spearmen and archers in order to really take good engagements here. At the same time, he's just able to keep sieging down all of these infrastructure buildings, getting so many resources out of them.
150 resources per building he's sieging down, as you just saw that 75 food, 75 gold pop up. And when you're sieging down multiple buildings a minute, that is, I mean, you're basically saying your trebuchets are producing more resources than some villagers are.
The aggression just keeps on piling on here from SortOf. It's gonna be really, really tough now. And now also the food income, he has a really good food bank right now as well behind all of this. ZertoN, he has depleted his food bank, he has depleted his gold bank right now. He's just trying to get units out, but it's just not happening fast enough here. Spearmen are able to take care of all of these horsemen, and the range mass still looking really, really good for SortOf as well.
Yeah, it's just slowly just started to favor SortOf more and more and more. ZertoN's getting closer to that max population number that he hasn't been able to hit, I don't think, yet. And SortOf, he's just been sitting at max pop for so long. Just now getting greased axles. All right. That's probably why he was losing some of those siege wars way earlier on.
Now also going for the improved version, so his siege is going to be fast from now on, as soon as that upgrade comes in, but yeah, this is looking really, really rough now for ZertoN. Tries to go for the mangonels here with a couple of the horsemen, but just not going to be enough. Once again, horsemen are trying to teeter around to the siege.
Yeah, just the horsemen are able to get on top of those 2 mangonels, but not before those mangonels have already gotten a few fires off. And the hand cannoneers, they're just taking down everything in their path for SortOf. And SortOf's military or total population number is not dipping below 200, whereas ZertoN's continues to fall as he does not have the production to constantly replenish like SortOf does.
Yeah, this is just a slow, slow death here for ZertoN. He's still trying to produce Springles just now. He hasn't had siege for a long time now during this game. And it's also an issue with the map control. SortOf has so much map control, it looks like ZertoN probably won't have a lot of wood when it comes to, at least access when it comes to the wood lines on the map.
Yeah, he isn't able to spot out that massive villager expedition on gold on the east side by ZertoN, but I don't think he really needs that right now. All he needs to do is focus down. 2 mangonels moving forward. That's the hand cannoneers. That's all of them.
Oh, he moves back into it. Oh, that could have been really, really bad.
Still, the amount of damage they took from that first fire is just took them all down to just not that full health, just allows them to just get shot down so much easier, and more buildings have just continued to fall, continued to go down. SortOf just stole a relic.
The relic heist, oh man. It's gonna be really rough now for ZertoN, having lost access to those relics. Also seeing SortOf shaman just yoinking them.
If those mangonels fire on the villagers gathering the sheep, it's game over.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's the whole main food production. The sheep are going to have to get requeued elsewhere. The mangonels continue to fire. Yes, the TC may be able to run away, but not before. And there it is. ZertoN is not able to get the dub there. SortOf just showed that, hey, if I stay resilient, I stay strong, I can get myself back into this game, and does exactly that. What a great first game for this series that we're going to be going in on today.
Yeah, absolutely amazing game coming out of those two. It really goes to show that, I mean, looking right now at the overall income right now and the villager count, this was relatively even for a long time, but sort of just with the non-stop aggression, with the non-stop push here, we see the military count going up and down, up and down. SortOf might not have been taking the best fights, but he was using units that didn't cost as much as his opponent's units. And he was able to just demolish ZertoN there over time, and then take that big fight in the Imperial Age and completely decimate his opponent's military.
Yeah, and that was really that big thing, was like he had that Imperial Age timing push, and I think that's really what gave him that foothold. ZertoN was never able to mass up. Loving that, and just nonstop going to be seeing all of those names pop up that have been gifted a sub by BDOD. So thank you so much here. You are really the man. And right as that happens, we're hearing the sheep come in. We're going into game number 2 of this huge, exciting series here.
What a way to start the game, and we are gonna be having a really exciting game here today as well. We got SortOf in the red playing as the Abbasid, and on the blue we have ZertoN playing as the English on the map Cauldron. Really excited for this one. Cauldron being the map that has like one of these big open ponds in the middle of the map with a lot of shoreline fish. So really big food potential in the middle of the map. Right now we see, actually it's flipped around. Is it? Wait a second. Who's who?
ZertoN's
who is
red. ZertoN's red in the southwest side, I believe.
There we go. Now there we have it. ZertoN is the red playing as the English, and SortOf is blue playing as the Abbasid here. There we go. Now it's all fixed with the colors as well. ZertoN already having a lot of sheep trailing behind that scout. Both players going for the single scout approach here in this game.
Yeah, and no quick mill on that middle water. I do like how the water looks there in the middle. It's kind of not like the typical just giant circle splat. It's got a little bit of, you know, that kind of cross look to it, and is always interesting seeing how some of these community made maps spawn, and really can get to have some interesting games coming from those as well.
Yeah, and right now, what do we see here for the English pair? We don't really see the approach where they go for the early wheelbarrow or anything like that. So this does seem like it's going to be potentially just an all-in feudal age kind of play. We do see ZertoN going for a build order that just allows him to click the feudal age as soon as he can. SortOf behind this also doesn't look like he went out to wood early on, so it does seem to be a relatively fast feudal age from him as well. Might be just the case where both players do know what's going to be coming, and they do want to put up a lot of aggression here in the feudal age.
Yeah, exactly. And with the English Abbasid matchup, Abbasid typically is a civilization that already goes on the horsemen. Reason being is they have such a cheap food cost with fresh foodstuffs for their villagers that they have an extra kind of food resource in their bank, and they can support the stables economy much better. And those stables obviously going pretty well against the longbows of the English. So I would expect to see some spear longbow combo coming out from ZertoN, and just the typical horseman mass coming out on the opposite side, with some potential archers coming into play too.
Yeah, horsemen being a really good answer to the longbowmen. I mean, in general, the English, they tend to be relatively weak when it comes to fighting against these more mobile unit compositions. They usually like to go for all-in infantry, and that means they're going to be really slow when it comes to just reacting to raids, when it comes to trying to circle around the opponent's base to maybe attack from a different angle. that's usually something that the opponent is able to use. And then if they go for the horseman, they're just going to be able to decide when to take fights, when to take engagements. They're not going to be playing around the enemy. They're going to be playing around their own game plan.
Exactly, and you just talked about, you know, horseman mobility. We talked about it in some of the earlier matchups today, where English, the strength is kind of having that ball stay together and stay kind of, yes, they're not as mobile, but they can stay together and be strong. Well, if SortOf can just make sure that ZertoN's never able to keep his military mass together, keep poking and prodding from all sides, it really doesn't allow English to utilize that strength.
And here we go. ZertoN went for a really, really fast uptime, even went with 5 villagers on the H-up. So right now he did go up at 340 into the game, immediately going for those longmen. At the same time, we see SortOf just prepping a couple of walls here, trying to wall in one of the sides of his base. Means that there will not be a lot of aggression coming in from that side. However, these walls, they are connected to the wood line, so maybe a villager could go for a chop off of one of those walls.
Yeah, the English are already a civilization that typically send a couple vills forward to build those outposts to give themselves that network of castles bonus. Well, if the villagers are already forward, why not give yourself an added benefit and just chop on right through one of those trees and give yourself a nice hole to be aggressive. And look at the play by ZertoN. He does the 3 longbows forward to force a reaction out of.
What's this?
Those have been there for a
The
while.
villagers. Yeah, they've been there for a while, and they're just holding those canes like they want to go over to the sheep, but they've not been doing so for quite a while. I'm not even sure if they're being shown as idle right now.
They're not. It shows on the top left if there's idle vills, as SortOf has one, and they're not showing as idle right now. So a little bit of an odd interaction going on, but ZertoN going over and going to try to pressure SortOf a little bit and react with those couple longbows that he's sending forward. And at the same time, he's going to go multi-TCs behind this. You'll notice SortOf already dropping multiple production buildings and not onto the stone yet at all, which over on the opposite side, ZertoN, he's almost having enough for his secondary TC.
Ooh, quick wall coming in could potentially. Yep, that's going to be the scout gun. Horseman is going to finish him off. That's going to be 3-4 sheep going over the way of SortOf here. Villagers still haven't been noticed then. Now he notices. Oh, thank God. It's still going to be a pretty big amount of idle time here, but at least he notices at some point. Looks like ZertoN is going to be going for a second TC here. It doesn't look like it's going to be over on the shoreline. Looks like it's going to be a safe one inside of his base. Yeah,
and that's just one of those things that's basically 10% of ZertoN's economy, if not more, that wasn't working for a couple minutes. So not a position you want to be in that early, but the second TC timing, not too far behind it because of it or anything like that. He still kind of has a good timing and should be able to start massing up villagers. Obviously, his food cost will be higher than the cost of SortOf's, but his static defenses are going to be so much stronger.
Same time, very interesting play here from SortOf. So what SortOf did was he waited for ZertoN to scout his archer range, and once he did that, he chased the scout out, and then he deleted the archer range. So there's not going to be any archers coming out from SortOf here at any point soon in time. Also looks like he did go for that fast golden H1 here with a couple of bonus houses that he didn't initially lead. So now he's also going for a second TC officer, and I wonder where he's going to be placing that. So far, we've not seen any of these players really utilizing those fish in the middle. They might be just waiting for a Castle Age kind of push, and then go for those fish later on.
And SortOf's ahead by 2 villagers right now. Did we get any picks out of SortOf with the horsemen as far as on top of villagers or anything, or is this just some idle time from ZertoN? Maybe it was he had 4 vills on food and 2 of those vills weren't working earlier on, and that was why. But he is definitely not. He shouldn't be behind in villager count in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that must have been it. I mean, you need 4 villagers on food in order to sustain villager production out of a town center. And since he had 2 idols, I think that must have been the reason why he wasn't able to sustain villager production out of his 1TC. Really, really unfortunate happening there.
Yeah, and so now we're kind of just continuing to move on along into the game. The second TC has been dropped for sort of now. It's getting close to finishing it on up, and so it will basically finish up at a time where sort of's going to be ahead by about 1 villager or so, most likely, and equalize TC count, just not equalize as far as the food production. But this is where English will start trickling in farms, and the longer the game goes, the more that the Abbasid will try to start kind of going over to these pocket ecos that could become very vulnerable.
I don't think ZertoN is really thinking about going for farms anytime soon here. He did place the TC over on the deer, so he's going to have a food source for a good amount of time here. Not sure if he's going to go over to more aggression, but wait, is this just me or is the game frozen right now?
The game's frozen.
Oh.
And there's the black screen.
Oh, no. And we're back over here. Hello there, chat. How are you today? Just gonna be looking into that again. Sorry for the little bit of a delay here. It's just gonna be a little bit until we're back in the game.
Yeah. And so obviously with that game, it was really when the ecos were starting to snipe on back up and just really get the ecos rolling and transitioning that into a huge military mass as well. So once we turn it back on, I'm not sure if we'll have it paused and we'll kind of jump into the same spot or get back on up to live, but still we won't be missing on too much action as the game will just start opening up when it comes back on in.
I think it does seem to be back up for me right now. How about you?
Let me just, I have to switch scenes, and there we go. We are back.
Perfect. Okay, and we paused the game, so we're right back here right now, going over the game again. And there we go. We're right back where we left off. 2 horsemen right now out for SortOf. ZertoN, though, has 4 spears and 6 lumbermen. It looks like SortOf is going for fast castle age timing here. And with the walls, I'm not sure if ZertoN can really punish that right now.
No, I really don't think he will be able to. ZertoN, though, he has a little bit of a military mass, so he could potentially spot out when SortOf drops this, as you can start seeing the House of Wisdom being built. But it's, where is this military mass actually going to be able to pressure? There's walls on the right side, there's a TC on the left, and there's this little hole in between the tree lines that leads directly into TC fire.
Yeah, this is really hard right now for ZertoN to find any point to pressure on. It's downright impossible right now. I mean, he doesn't even know right now, I think, that SortOf is going up to the next age. And this is gonna leave him a little bit in the dark here, and he's not really that close to clicking up as well right now. Probably gonna need another minute here. And after that, he will have to rush it up, but I mean, he's gonna be on 3 TC as soon as he gets up to the next age. So, SortOf, he did not opt for a 3rd TC of his own. However, what I'm really fearing right now is going to be the amount of units that SortOf with the Abbasid is going to be able to field when he gets up to that castle age.
Yeah, it's just hard for ZertoN to match anything. He doesn't have the farming eco like you typically see from the English, so he won't be able to just like long-term turn this eco bonus into something. He's going to have to slowly trickle those in, but at the same time try and attempt to match the production of the Abbasid.
There's a lot of buildings here on that right side and a lot of villagers as well. If only ZertoN went for a chop through there on that palisade wall, that could have been a lot of idle time and maybe even denied the castle age here for SortOf. Didn't happen though, and now we see SortOf sending a couple of horsemen over ZertoN at the same time, now also going up to the castle age, rushing it up with a lot of villagers.
Yeah, has a couple spearmen, has some longbows there to protect, and there's no military units out for SortOf that would be able to outmass or damage out the units that ZertoN has there. So 3 TCs will be online. He has walls over on the left side, and then the TCs are all going to be on the right. So ZertoN's base is going to be nice and secure, but SortOf, like you said, he's going to immediately just transition this into a ton of military pressure.
Exactly. Now we immediately see the technologies coming in for SortOf from the House of Wisdom. So he's going to be having technologies cost 30% less from now on. And that just means that he can grab a lot of economy upgrades as soon as that comes in. Also see we are getting a lot of the blacksmith upgrades right now as well. He's also fielding a couple of men-at-arms. Wondering though right now, I mean, ZertoN with the English, his men-at-arms will be superior if he gets the armor-clad upgrade.
Yeah, and that was my exact thought, was that the men-at-arms just kind of almost says, okay, you know, English, are you going to match up my men-at-arms mass? But the big sort of matching up the Castle Age TC out of ZertoN with his own TC, but again, his just costs so much less, so he can use all of this extra food to actually go into military units, whereas there's not going to be a lot of extra food coming out for ZertoN just because those TCs are full price.
ZertoN right now still having a couple of idle villagers. He's still on sheep under his main TC, so there are a couple of idle villagers there right now. He's gonna have to transition to farms here at some point in time. I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to keep map control here with all of these mobile units running around.
Yeah, it's exactly what we saw the other game. It's, you know, English wants to keep their military mass together, but when you're the Abbasid, you have such high mobility if you're going with horsemen, if you're going with camel archers, that it makes it hard to fight just head on, because they're going to be all at all different parts of the map. First farms finally getting put on in for ZertoN, and this probably will mean Wheelbarrow is soon to follow as well.
Monastery also dropped for ZertoN, so he does have a lot of gold right now in the bank, and now we see him also going. Oh no, oh, this could be really huge here. Mangonel push. Right now, ZertoN is trying to gather up stone. Might be using that stone either for emplacements or for a keep. Actually, Mangonel gets cancelled, and right now SortOf is retreating. Might have scouted that ZertoN does have a couple of men-at-arms of his own.
Yeah, walls coming in on the eastern side now for ZertoN, so trying to kind of secure up more of his base. Sort of still chilling with his initial walls that he has with, you know, like we said, that middle point that ZertoN was trying to focus in on, where he dropped that third TC. So much food has been able to be secured by SortOf that isn't farms. He's on deer, he's on berries, he has all of those kind of just nice food bonuses for himself. Not sure if he's gotten the extra tech out of the House of Wisdom to increase that, but at the same time, all the techs coming in for him are much cheaper, and we're finally seeing the first technology come in for ZertoN, which is Wheelbarrow, and also, oh, actually he is getting the second. Nope, that's actually on SortOf food upgrade.
Yep, and right now at the same time, I mean, both players, they are making some monks in order to go for the relics, but actually, for a good amount of time here, SortOf did have military on both of the relics. Now he just moved them away, probably selected all military. Now moving his military back over to those relics positions, so he knows whenever ZertoN might be going out to grab one of these relics.
Yep, Chat-at-Arms upgrade coming on through for ZertoN. So just how we talked about, the men-at-arms over on the side of ZertoN are going to be a little bit stronger, but there's crossbows out on the side of SortOf, as well as a Mangonel. And so if that Mangonel can get some good shots onto the infantry mass of ZertoN, the fight's going to heavily favor the side of SortOf.
Oh, really nice reaction here. ZertoN did pull a couple of spearmen together with that monk, so he's going to be protected and is able to get that relic back home and safe. Right now, though, what I'm really fearing is just the intense amount of food that is coming in for SortOf. He's just going to be able to field so much more military. All the men-at-arms here and the crossbowmen, it's going to be really rough for ZertoN to outmass his opponent here anytime soon.
Yeah, it just shows you they're on basically the dead even amount of villager count, but SortOf, he's up, what, 600 extra food per minute? He's up 300 extra wood per minute. He's up extra gold per minute. He's literally basically leading on every single resource aspect, and this just shows you the value of having all of those technologies researched.
Now I think there's a couple of horsemen trying to intercept the monk from ZertoN as he is trying to pick up one of the relics. And it looks like that monk is very likely gonna go down towards the bottom. There it is, just a single horseman. Actually, single horseman, single scout might be able to secure the relic. The other monk is gonna move towards that, but now SortOf knows what ZertoN is going for, and he's gonna try and contest that now.
Yeah, second Mangonel being dropped. Oof. Once that mango number gets to 2 or 3, it really gets hard for ZertoN. Even if he has a bigger men-at-arms mass, which he doesn't, then you'd think, oh, he can just chase down that good old Mangonel. Well, not when that Mangonel can get a couple fires off first, or 2 or 3 of them can.
ZertoN is looking towards getting a keep now really soon. He already has the amount of stone that he needs for it, and once he has that keep, then he can start thinking about getting the Network of Citadels. And with Network of Citadels, you will be in a really, really good position when it comes to taking these fights. 50% increased attack speed is a lot, and now we have to see where he's going to be placing that keep. It's going to be forward. It's not going to be protecting his King's Palace. Instead, I mean, he does have a siege workshop, so he is able to field a couple of Springles of his own, and he really needs them. But with the bonus attack speed, those Springles are going to be much higher value here for ZertoN than they are going to be for SortOf. And now we see a big wall there on the left side from SortOf. He's walling the entire upper part of the map with that wall.
Yeah, and at the same time, just pressuring down the eastern side of ZertoN's base. So we'll break through the wall, and there's the breakthrough on the wall. With 3 mangonels, we'll start focusing down that King's Palace, which is very weak if you think about how much health some of these landmarks have. I think it's just 2,500 total. Yep, 2,500 total health, which, as you can see, just a couple mangonel fires took down about 20% of that or so.
Network of Citadels is now being researched by ZertoN. He does have quite a lot of villagers working on the farm, so he already made his farm transition pretty much fully at this point. SortOf, though, he is going to get all the sacred sites, and then the countdown is going to be ticking in. Right now, he's producing so many units. He is on 88 military. He's already almost fully fleshed out when it comes to his population, almost at 200. Meanwhile, ZertoN, he's at around 150, and the King's Palace here is going to go down really soon.
Yeah, this is almost like the name of the game of the previous game too. SortOf, he had, you know, just an absurd amount of military mass and just continued to utilize that to snowball forward, continue to pressure eco, continue to damage on in. And once these mangonels get on top of farms, it's not like the old days of the mangonels where you could hit the middle mill and every single farm would go down, but it is still, they do quite a bit of damage, and those farms should be easily denied once they're spotted on out.
Ram is getting destroyed, however, the Ram did manage to take down an outpost before it went down. Farms are now going to be shot at by the mangonels. As you said, it's not going to be detrimental damage to the farms, however, villagers are going to have to evacuate from that position.
Yeah, and I mean, a full set of farms going down, it's not as costly for the English as other civilizations, but it is still quite a big investment, and that's just 8 full farms that aren't being worked on now. That's 8 less villagers working on food that you had beforehand.
Now SortOf is just sieging down the infrastructure purely with his infantry here. Houses are going down, ZertoN actually being pop-locked right now. Now Springles are firing upon each other. It looks like there are good Springle trades here for ZertoN at the moment. Is able to take down 2 Springles, 2 for 2. Actually,
2 for 1.
2 or 2 for 1. Yeah,
he lost 1, took 2 down, and if he takes down, there we go, another 2. Oh, it was 1-to-1 trade there, but should have the Springled mass to end up winning out on the other side. Could potentially start taking down the siege, but look at where he is as far as when that siege battle is won. He has the whole entire military of SortOf past his initial town center. SortOf doesn't care, taking fire from the keep. He's aging up to Imperial behind this. He is still pressuring down the eco, idling out all of these farms, doing a ton of damage, and ZertoN's going to be miles away from Imperial Age.
I think this really just goes to show just how strong the Abbasid as a civilization are right now. I mean, ZertoN, he's just been going full economy this entire game, went for a 2nd TC, went for the 3rd TC with the King's Palace, and SortOf behind all of that, he imitated him with the 3rd TC being placed, but he was just able to field so much more when it comes to military, and it really just all stems from that reduced cost from the villagers. Now we see another keep here going up from ZertoN, trying to get another proxy economy going on the other side of his base, but military just looking even now, but it shouldn't be even when he was fighting under a keep for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, the military mass, it's starting to get spread out, SortOf starting to pull back now that he knows how much damage he's done. He still has men-at-arms causing some idle time, causing some annoyance, but those will get cleared up right as Imperial Age comes out. So ZertoN's like, yes, I secured my eco again, I'm safe for a second, and then Imperial Age is going to come through.
I think Abbasid is probably the civilization that SortOf is the most proficient with at the moment, and really goes to show here. He had enough resources when he reached Imperial to just go Imperial right over again. And behind all of this, ZertoN's economy has been idled quite a bit, Sure, sort of lost a lot of his military, but he can just replenish it now. He does have the resource for it. We see all of the, well, not all of the, but some of the really important economic upgrades coming in from the House of Wisdom now as well. Now that he does have access to the military wing again as well, he's going to be able to get boot camp and a lot of other important upgrades from the House of Wisdom. His military is just going to be way, way stronger.
I believe that's improved processing as well, which will just compound the fact of Golden Age with some additional villager drop-off, and just all of these villagers are working so much harder for SortOf, as he has all these techs. He's got Golden Age, he's got Wheelbarrow, he's got all the techs coming out of the House of Wisdom, whereas ZertoN, I mean, he has cheaper and stronger farms, but it's just not quite enough in this matchup, not quite enough until Imperial Age hits with enclosures involved.
Behind this sort of, his economy is really, really strong. He's also getting his farming transition at the perfect time. Like, he started going for the farm transition when he had like 2,000 food per minute incoming out of all of these natural resources on the map. So perfect timing for his farm transition, and now we see SortOf trying to pressure again, right as ZertoN was about to pressure on the other side of the map. Spotting out the keep, spotting out the big wall, though, is probably going to have to fall back here. I think SortOf is probably just going to be able to, yeah, he's just going to place down a second layer of wall, even stone walls here. And that's just going to mean that there is not a lot of aggression possible here from ZertoN on that part of the map.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, he's had the 3 sacred sites, he's had 3 relics secured for quite some time. He's been the one being the aggressor, and we just saw how much damage he was able to do taking down that King's Palace, which is still yet to be rebuilt.
A lot of men-at-arms on the field right now for ZertoN. However, SortOf, he does have the answer with the crossbowmen, with the hand cannoneers. And now, once again, the dive is going to be taking place under the economy from ZertoN here. A lot of villagers are going to go idle inside of those town centers. And the military, they just ignore the outpost. They're just going the fire from the outpost and town center. They're just going straight for the buildings.
Yep, and ZertoN's going up to Imperial Age behind this. I believe it will be with the Windguard Palace over there on the western side. Not really sure exactly where it is. But horsemen, men-at-arms, they're just running on through again, idling out those farms. Imperial Age hits, but Imperial Age, yeah, you might be able to get enclosures, but if your farms aren't working, the enclosures don't generate too much gold. Horsemen deciding to run by the rest of those farms, find more villagers, find more places to do damage, whereas the men-at-arms will just continue to burn down the original TC, and crossbows continuing to shoot there in support as well.
This is really where the mobility comes in of the horsemen. Men-at-arms are so slow, they're not really able to catch up. Siege going down. All of the Springles went down here for ZertoN now. And now he doesn't have an answer to Siege, and SortOf at the same time prepping 2 trebuchets from his Siege workshops.
Yep, horsemen have denied that wood line. They are getting kind of taken down. They're getting chased by men-at-arms, which is never really a spot and position you want to be in. An additional keeps going down on that sacred site that was denied for a short bit of time. Tons of villagers trying to help rebuild that initial TC, but men-at-arms, hand cannoneers, crossbows come back on through, and SortOf is going right back in for that same exact positioning.
Lots of upgrades coming in for him now as well. He didn't have that many blacksmith upgrades, but he is getting now, those are also discounted, and he's also getting culverins behind this. So with the culverins, unless ZertoN is able to get the upgrades for his trebuchets and then suddenly have like a mass of 5 to 6 trebuchets, he won't be able to keep the siege advantage here at all. The culverins will just one-shot the trebuchets.
Enclosures finally being picked up, as ZertoN's been Imperial for a little bit, but hadn't really ever had any room to breathe. And yes, SortOf is just sitting at max population, tons of stuff in queue, just kind of sitting there waiting. He can just continue to throw away his units, whereas ZertoN, he's not up there at max population yet. So the more food that gets denied by SortOf, the more of these farms that he can end up taking down, that's less food and gold coming in.
PC being picked apart rapidly. Men-at-arms are trying to defend. Are able to discourage the units here from sieging it down, but however, that choke is not a good choke point here for ZertoN. He is not able to really out-damage any of these hand cannons in the back. Now a lead coming in for the men-at-arms, but TC is going to get down now.
Yep. Now that is the second of 4 landmarks that have gone down for ZertoN, as the King's Palace still has not been rebuilt. So he's only working on 1 TC, not as important having 110 villagers already, but if there's any detrimental raids, if any of these villagers start going down in a significant manner, that will be a big difference.
Longbowmen are firing upon the men-at-arms right now, not focusing down the hand cannoneers. You really need to focus those down. Those are high-value units that you do want to be killing. The TC that did go down was a secondary TC, so these do have less HP. That means it's much easier for these melee units to torch them down. And now we see the trebuchets moving out and trying to take down these keeps from ZertoN.
Yeah, so trebuchets have finally been moved up. I was kind of confused why SortOf hadn't opted for any siege with the amount of damage he had, but I think that was just because of his lead. He knew he could have the opportunity to just continue to do that. Men-at-Arms trying to chase down these trebuchets, but there are some villagers here to heal it up quick, and more importantly, the military mass for SortOf is nice and close and should just be able to wipe those few men-at-arms.
SortOf sending just a couple of horsemen around the farming economy here from ZertoN again, and it just goes once again into the saying that just the military for English is slow. SortOf is not going to be able to be everywhere at the same time, and SortOf knows this. The longwomen just are too slow. They're not able to just catch the horsemen at any point, so they can just run in, get economy damage, go to another point, get economy damage. If the longwomen chase them in big enough mass, then that means that the army isn't at the right place when SortOf wants to push with his main army.
Yeah, we have that keep about to go down. ZertoN has plenty of stone to heal it back up, but only healing it with one villager, which just means next couple shots, and it will go. At the same time, SortOf trying to burn down the palisade gate, taking the fight there in the middle, and again, just continuing to mass up the units. Look at his queue right now. Look at his upgrades right now. It just feels like he is so far ahead with all of the resources and everything that SortOf is doing.
Looking at the economy right now, almost 7,000 food in the bank, and it's just gonna keep growing and keep growing as he's still on 200 of 200 population.
Culverin immediately snipes down the Springald on the opposite side. For some reason, the crossbows and hand cannoneers for SortOf moved back and decided to stop attacking, and kind of allowed that frontline mass to get completely wiped out.
Yeah, this is actually now looking really good for ZertoN. He was able to make full use of the 50% attack boost for most of its units for these fights. So he actually took some really good trades. Is able to take down the Culverin, might now also be able to take down the trebuchets in the here. And I mean, hand cannoneers are a little bit caught off guard here. Might be able to be picked off by the mass of horsemen. Second trebuchet actually not going down as it is being repaired now by a lot of villagers, and now another keep is going to be dropped here from SortOf.
Yeah, hand cannoneers moving on up. Longbow's still in the mix for ZertoN, so might be able to try to damage that down, but he just does not have the production replenishment like SortOf does. You can still see the queue of SortOf. There's 30, 40, 50 military units in queue, so if he loses his whole entire army, they will be right back up and ready in just no time at all.
Yeah, right now at the moment, SortOf's population cap is completely glued at the 200 mark, and there's not a lot that ZertoN can do at the moment to get it down from there, as he has just so much more economy income right now. And I mean, with enclosures, you are able to get a lot of gold income. I think right now, ZertoN, he doesn't have a single villager working on mining gold, so all of this gold income right now is from 2 relics and enclosures. But at the same time, the sacred sites are going to be ticking. There's only 6 minutes left.
Yeah, I just saw both of ZertoN's trebuchets get picked out as well. And one of the things we've noticed SortOf do is how many keeps he's been dropping. Usually there's this point where your opponent all of a sudden grabs his foothold as far as the siege foothold goes and has that treb mass and can start sieging down those keeps. But SortOf has continually picked off the trebuchets from the opposite side, so these keeps are utilized to their fullest effect. They aren't even being sieged down. He's not even having to have that stone, taking another fight in the middle. But ZertoN has the network of citadels upgrade coming in here, and so will be a little bit kind of preferential trades for him. But SortOf's eco is so much stronger, he just doesn't really care right now.
SortOf behind all of this also has the camel support. That's the reason why his units are glowing right now as well. If you think that +2 armor on men-at-arms is strong, think about +2 armor on all of your infantry. Camel support, meaning that all the military inside of the radius of the camels will get +2 melee and +2 pierce armor. Camels go down though, so camel support is no longer going to be a thing here. However, SortOf, he's just going to run through ZertoN's economy here at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, SortOf, the writing's been on the wall. It feels like he could have ended this game a little bit ago, but he is just putting a full stranglehold on ZertoN and just not allowing ZertoN to move out of this at all. Just continuing to have units flow in. Villagers are starting to run out of spots to gather their resources, and there is just people and aggression coming in from all sides.
This is incredibly tough right now for ZertoN to hold. Behind all of this, not only does he have to hold, he will have to push back at some point if he wants to stay into this game as the timer keeps ticking down. And it's just really tough for him right now because SortOf, he still is at that 200 population mark, and there's no sign of that budging anytime soon. And it's really tough right now. Also getting upgrades on his keeps. He has so much stone in the bank. He can get a lot of cannon upgrades here, cannon emplacements on his keeps, and then it's going to be really tough for ZertoN to take fights anywhere close to those keeps without sieging them down first.
Yeah, and I mean, the cool thing with the camels too is you can utilize their mobility for those camel archers to just kind of run around and start poking and prodding more spots of the eco. As we had already kind of kept hammering home, English has low mobility units.
I think something that ZertoN has also been missing for a long time is the last upgrade for his longbowmen. Also no incendiary arrows. So these longbowmen, they don't do nearly as much damage as they could potentially be doing. And now we see ZertoN, he's not fielding any more military right now because the army is just shrinking and shrinking. Now down to 25 military. Meanwhile, SortOf still at 60 military. He's been at the whole time. And now the trebuchets go down as well. And with those trebuchets gone, there's no way for ZertoN to siege back down those keeps and get back into the game, and he does realize that as well. GG gets called. Game number 2 going the way of SortOf here.
Yeah, SortOf starting off this series quite strong, and he has kind of won both matchups in the same way, which is just, I'm going to have way more military than you and just non-stop run it down.
Yeah, and he just really played it to the strengths here of the Abbasid. As soon as he got to Castle Age, he had a really, really big military advantage. And the timing was really good for him. Those walls at the beginning basically secured him a free, pretty much naked Castle Age. And it just goes to show that there's just a really, really tiny window at the moment if you want to be doing damage in the Feudal Age. I think it's a little bit of a mistake for ZertoN that he did go for that early second TC. I think before he went for that, he should have probably tried to get a little bit more damage.
Yeah, I kind of agree because you're kind of just playing into the Abbasid's hands when you go second TC. They're like, "Oh, you went second TC? All right, cool. I'll go third." Like I'm still costing less than you, and I'm happy about this. Thanks for making my game a little bit easier early on.
I think I already hear the background music, and there we go. In these Scouts are now out on the map trying to collect the sheep. There's the ringing that we all like to hear, and we got ZertoN in the blue playing as the HRE against SortOf in the red, also playing as the HRE.
Yeah, and it's a little bit a west side versus the south side matchup here, and both starting with a similar start, going on the food, going over to the gold as well, kind of just starting that both food and gold, getting that feudal age as fast as possible. But where will the chapel be dropped, and who will have the more efficient chapel? I think both can get their food, gold, and potentially a wood line in it, and that's really one of the big things about Frisian Marshes. Sometimes you'll see the matchup become one of those that one person gets wood in the chapel and the opponent doesn't, and then it's kind of a huge benefit and a huge kind of leg up compared to your opponent.
Yeah, getting a lot of resources definitely does matter here in the influence of the Archon Chapel. And it looks like the spawn for SortOf here is going to be in a really good position. For ZertoN as well, if he goes for that second wood line that's towards the bottom, it is, however, not going to be as safe under the TC. But SortOf, he has a really good spot here. He can have his sheep under the TC and the gold in the range and the wood in the range of the Archon Chapel all together, and he's going to be just fine with that. Meanwhile, ZertoN, he has a similar potential, however, he would have to go for a less safe wood line.
We had a little bit of some sheep a little too excited there. They were doing some dancing. They thought they might get to get out with their lives, but a villager had something to say about that one real quick.
The stream for a short time was rated as M for mature, but we are back to our normal stream here, and there we go. And both players here, I mean, in typical HRE fashion, they're both going for the 2-scout approach. You want to get as many sheep as possible. Let's actually take a look here at that point. Who has found how many sheep at this point in the game? That's probably going to be really the telling thing so far. I mean, SortOf, he still has like 5 sheep in his base right now. ZertoN, he's on 20 sheep. And SortOf, without having those 5 to 6 sheep, he is on 14 right now. So it's going to be pretty much even here between these two players.
Yeah, a lot different than one of the matchups we saw earlier that I think was like 20, 25 to 10. It's a little bit of more of an even ground here for these two HRE players. So really just living up to that mirror matchup name.
And there we go. Certain he does indeed decide to go for that a little bit more forward Archon Chapel, meaning that he will have all three resources in range of that Archon Chapel. I'm quite sure that SortOf will go for a similar approach and place his Archon Chapel. Yep, there we go. We see it from SortOf as well. He's going to have three resources in the influence of his Archon Chapel as well.
Yeah, so really just living up to this mirror matchup fate as far as, you know, Chapels having the same resources. There's not really any sort of extra leg up that one of these players has compared to the opponent at this point in the game. But once military units start coming out, once Feudal has a little bit of time in Feudal Age, we will see how they start making those differences come in.
Exactly, then Feudal Age, that's when we're going to be seeing the differences. SortOf, he has already gathered a little bit of wood, Certain also just now gathering wood. None of these players opting to drop their Archon Chapel right next to the wood line, just because that would mean that they might not have the access to the gold from it. And now we see SortOf, he's going to be differentiating himself here a little bit by going for that stone, meaning that we will very likely see a second TC play out of him here. But in those situations, I think you can actually go for the fast Castle Age and still be in a good position.
Yeah, I mean, it's all dependent. SortOf is, I mean, dropping the mining camp on the stone is always, I feel like I'd always seen it where you could either gather a couple handfuls of stone with your villagers for outpost upgrades, or you go heavy onto the stone for a second TC. Usually you won't see the actual stone mining camp being dropped if it's just going to be, you know, just the outpost upgrades. So I would expect a full-on second TC play coming out from SortOf.
Yeah, and this is in my opinion the right approach. He is not going to try and copy SortOf here. In this situation, I think you can make full use of knowing that your opponent is going to go for that second TC, that he is going to invest 700 resources into that, and from that, you can just go into a fast Castle Age of your own and then just go and take the relics. With the HRE, you're getting much more value out of those relics, and that means that you will be in a position to just have so much more gold that you're able to buy other resources, and you'll be perfectly fine there. You can then go for a second TC of your own in the Castle Age, or maybe even go for a fast Imperial and then look at the income that you're going to be having with the Palace of Swabia. You're going to have a lot of villagers. Suddenly villagers are really cheap. And I mean, we have been seeing Imperial Age timings here with players with the HRE that are like less than 10 minutes, but it looks like both players are opting into a little bit of military here in the Feudal Age, as we see the stable and the barracks being dropped from ZertoN. Meanwhile, SortOf, he is only going to be dropping a barracks. Only barracks is completely fine because you're going to be countering out both the spearmen from your opponent and potential horsemen. Right now, horsemen are going to be trying to do some damage over on the villagers here gathering the stone, but Preld is out there and is just going to heal up all the villagers. It's not going to be able to, like the horseman isn't going to be able to kill any villagers here, and now Spearman is going to be able to dissuade that horseman from sticking around any longer.
Yep, and Men-at-Arms coming out for ZertoN now. He saw the spears jump out on the opposite side to stop those horsemen from being annoying, and then ZertoN does the opposite choice, or the correct choice from what you're supposed to do, and going ahead and throwing some Men-at-Arms to match up against those spearmen more effective.
Now second TC is going to be coming in here for SortOf. No Men-at-Arms even close yet to this point. And yeah, he's going to try and take down the Prelate. Actually, never mind. He got stuck on that scout. Was able to take down the scout, but he is very likely not going to be able to deny that second TC from going up. And now what is he going to do behind this? Is he going to go for that Castle Age timing now, or is he just going to let SortOf stay on 2 TCs and kind of like try to do some aggression here with his military?
Yeah, it kind of seems like he's doing this like 50-50 play where he's like, oh, I'm going to go into a little bit of military, a little bit of pressure, but I'm also wanting to castle behind this, which works in a sense, but he could have a much cleaner Castle Age timing. He will need to have a little bit of map control, though, if he wants to actually be able to grab up those relics, so he can't just go fully naked, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And right now, at the same time, though, I mean, looking at the stone that sort of still has, he has a little bit of stone that he could potentially use for some emplacements on some outposts, just keeping himself safe here. ZertoN is wasting his time a little bit here, just torching down the houses here a little bit, but against the H3, they are able to make use of that emergency repair, so you can't really siege down their buildings that well in the feudal age. It just doesn't really work. They're able to out-heal 2 rams basically doing damage onto their buildings.
Yeah, and those men-at-arms, they just show you how tanky they are as they're just kind of tanking up some town center fire. The prelates healing up the villagers, healing up some of those spearmen, and the horsemen and men-at-arms are still just kind of circling around, causing annoyance. And ZertoN, he's about to be able to drop his castle age here with the next food drop-off of his vills.
I'm not sure how I feel about this right now, because ZertoN is now going to be able to go up to the castle age. And sort of, he's placing a lot of military production buildings. That means, what is he going to be doing in the castle age? I mean, he won't be going for the Regnitz Cathedral with that many barracks out on the map, because it really doesn't make sense if you're not going to be able to afford. You're not going to be able to afford production out of 8 barracks. There's just no way. And I mean, if he lets ZertoN go up to the castle age here pretty much for free, then it means that ZertoN is going to have all the relics, and then the Regnitz Cathedral suddenly doesn't make much sense anymore.
Yeah, it looks like 2 of the relics will be quite hard to secure, and I believe he's walling up the relic on the all the way eastern side that might be a little bit more in contention. So it might be a play that just says, hey, I'm giving you 3 relics. I'm going to have 2, but I'm going to have the extra villager count. We'll see if that will end up working. ZertoN's already out with his prelates on that the most middle kind of dead center relic in the middle of the map, and then the other 2 on his side should be easily securable, but one of those prelates got spotted out and would be a huge pickup for SortOf if he was just able to deny these relics from coming in at any point in time.
Yeah, prelates are now getting close to each other. Could potentially just drop the relic for a little bit and just have a little bit of prelate on prelate healing action here going on. Should also be using his prelate that he has right there that's not currently holding a relic in order to heal up some of his units that are low HP right now. He's not choosing to do so right now, but it looks like he's going to get at least 2 relics right now, and then can choose to opt into some further relic gathering down the line. I mean, with the men-at-arms right now, sort of doesn't really have a response to them. It's still going to be a little bit until he goes up to the next age. Have those villagers been idle the entire time ever since they finished at Regnitz Cathedral? That could be a big amount of idle time that he had there. Yeah, that does not feel good at all.
Oh, there's still a men-at-arms on the gold, though, for SortOf, and SortOf needs like 1 or 2 more drop-offs off of those bills to actually be able to go up with his own Regnitz. Throw it! Throw it! Oh, no!
Unable to throw it.
Oh, he was trying to throw it. Oh, that men-at-arms, though.
He's getting a lot of value. A lot of villagers are going down here, and he still doesn't have the gold that he needs. He still does not have enough gold to go up.
Oh, no. The wall has been finished on up with the palisade gate, so SortOf will be able to grab that up if he can secure up his military presence. But that 1 men-at-arms is just being a thorn in SortOf's side.
And now SortOf also going up with the Regnitz Cathedral. Men-at-arms are now going to start sieging down that wall, and they're going to have that relic on out of there in no time at all. Right now, military heavily in favor of ZertoN, and it's going to be looking rough here when it comes to the relic count. Villagers are in favor of SortOf right now, being ahead by 9 villagers at the moment. However, the relics, there have already been 2 gathered inside of the buildings from ZertoN. That's 400 resources per minute, and another 200 are going to come in just a little bit.
I love how SortOf just went with his own sort of Burgrave Palace. He has 5 barracks now.
Sort of a Burgrave, yep.
It's sort of a Burgrave. Oh, Regnitz, though, getting pretty close to finishing on up. That relic will be grabbed, but will it be able to be fully escorted all the way back to his side of the map when there is going to be men-at-arms that should start to be pumping out? Uh-oh.
Prelate going down.
And spearmen not taking a fight that they should.
Wololo could potentially come in. Oh, night raiding on the fish, and it hasn't been spotted yet. this could be huge. A lot of villagers going down here. This could be the equalizer to the villager numbers, and that means that a lot of resources have been invested into that second TC without a lot of payoff. Does notice it now, does pull the villagers back a little bit, but now that knight is just going to go straight back over to that gold prelate. In the meantime, did go down. However, surely there will be just another prelate that's going to be sent out here by ZertoN to gather that back up again.
Yeah, and the knight numbers for ZertoN are starting to stack up. We said it earlier on. Typically, this is a mass knights, and whoever has the higher mass knight mass number wins. Well, that knight number is starting to stack up pretty quick. He still has some men-at-arms to take down some spears that get massed up on the other side, and SortOf is yet to kind of start producing any sort of his own knights. He is just sticking into spears and men-at-arms.
ZertoN is just going to be spamming knights out right now. It's also interesting that that ZertoN didn't go for the Man-at-Arms upgrade at all. He was still on early Man-at-Arms the entire time, and Relic is going to get picked up. Knight tries to kill that prelate. However, spearmen are going to be there to defend that one.
Yeah, it will end up being a 4-to-1 relic differential, and SortOf's eco behind this is not too strong. It's not like he has a 20 vill count lead like you'll see sometimes with this sort of relic differential. It's just a measly 10 villagers.
Sort of village differential, and the relic isn't even inside the Regnets right now. The prelate is just standing there next to the Regnets, hasn't even put the relic inside yet, and that's gonna hurt. Every single minute that goes by without that prelate putting it in, that's 200 resources less here for SortOf. And the Knights now coming in again, doing a lot of economy damage. However, SortOf right now, he does have the advantage with the Spearmen. But now we see ZertoN making the unit, making the only unit that can defeat mass infantry, and that's the Landsknechte.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying it, not me, but that is the perfect expectation that we would expect to see ZertoN start massing up when it's spearmen, when it's men-at-arms on the opposite side. So many knights.
No
oh my god.
SortOf going for anything else but infantry right now. He's dropped so many barracks. It just doesn't look like he's going to be producing anything like an archer or something like that, and he will need something in order to deal with the Landsknechte. It's just such a powerful unit when it comes to these melee fights. If you have like 3-4 Landsknechte, then all of those units just die in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and you know, all of this passive gold income coming in for ZertoN just means upgrades can start coming through for him. He can start utilizing that elsewhere. We already see the prelate number at the top being healthier for ZertoN, and those can start being utilized in your military mass compared to what we used to see. You know, no one really used to use those prelates with the inspired warriors bonus, but that is something we start seeing upgraded, as we just said it, I think, from ZertoN. I believe that is the signal for inspired warriors.
I think it is so as well, but okay, SortOf finally, he did notice, he did put his relic inside of his Regnets Cathedral, so only a 3-4 minute-ish kind of delay on when he had that gathered up to when he actually put it inside of his Regnets. Better late than never, and I mean, villager count right now, it's not where you want it to be for SortOf. He's only 9 villagers ahead, and he's been on 2 TC for a while compared to 1 TC from his opponent. At this point, ZertoN, he can just go for a Sacred Side victory, but I think he's gonna try and take some fights here and really punish his opponent for only going into infantry here.
Yeah, the one thing that I will say based off of ZertoN's resources in the bank, he looks like he wants to go up to Imperial Age. This is something that some people pull down a little too early with Swabia. They'll put Swabia down a little too early. I think right now, though, ZertoN would be completely fine with dropping Swabia. He has more than enough military, has more than enough mass behind this. Is dropping his textiles, is getting emplacement on outposts all around, and I think this is just kind of the writing on the wall. SortOf, it was a decent idea with the 2 TCs. It just wasn't able to fully kind of be utilized to what he had hoped.
Yeah, and this is going to be really bad now for SortOf. The military is knocking at the door from ZertoN, and I mean, if he gets in, then really just even the prelates are forward. 5 prelates compared to 2 prelates on the side of SortOf. So these units are never going to die.
Nope, and he has that Inspired Warriors text. There's a little bit of a small return rate attempting to come through, but ZertoN would have to just completely not even pay attention to that at all for him to take a losing fight there. And oh my god! That was massive.
Man, it really goes to show just the AoE effect. Oh no!
He didn't
doesn't
react.
notice.
I jinxed it. It's on me. That one's on me. He didn't react at all. Oh no. He's down 15 vills now.
Oh my god. He's so
No!
It goes on! It goes on! The raid goes on! And more villagers die here! Even more villagers! There's gonna be no food income at all for certain. He really needs to get into a Swabia now if he wants to keep winning this game, because now, all of a sudden, him losing so many villagers, if he doesn't go for a Swabia, he will be dead in the water now.
He's down 23 villagers.
He's gonna go for a keep now as well, but he needs that Swabia if he wants to stay in this game, because that was a game-changing raid there for SortOf. A lot of villagers went down there. Man, oh man.
SortOf, he has the villager count lead by a significant margin. He has retaken the military lead after that. He's down in relics, but the relics, 3 extra relics in the bank and 2 sacred sites, even with regnants, I don't think quite makes up for the amount of villager count lead that SortOf has now.
Certain he still isn't going for that Swabia. I think he needs it really soon. Right now, almost SortOf having double the amount of villagers. And I mean, if you don't get that Pulse of Swabia, you might be dead in the long run. You have so much gold in the bank right now. You can't just buy the food that you need to place it right now.
The villagers are moving forward for this keep right as the military mass is going in. I think ZertoN has enough of a military mass with the knights and with the land snakes that he has to be able to defend this up. So fortunate for him there, but SortOf, he has the timing now. He has the ability to potentially have his hold back into this game, being up 30 villagers.
Yeah, and we still don't see a lot of food income here for certain. He was at around 1,300 food when he started losing all of those villagers. If he just sent a couple more villagers over to food now, he could already have placed that Swabia. He could already be at like 60 villagers again. Him not going for that right now, I think it's really, really bad. He really needs to get villagers again, or his economy is just going to be flatlining here. I mean, he does have the sacred site, so it's a 6-minute timer. However, in 6 minutes, a lot of things could happen with SortOf having such a big villager lead right now.
Yeah, I think this is one of those that ZertoN might... there's a decision that's made when that raid comes out. It's either I go Swabia and I save my eco and play this long macro, or I go for Sacred Site victory and do it with the eco that he has right now. So, I'm leaning towards he's going all out for the Sacred Site victory. It's like 5 minutes and 40 seconds. He's dropping a keep on the Sacred Site. Well, he already did. And most likely will try to drop a keep on the other Sacred Site. SortOf's got 5.5 minutes to find an answer and to deny that Sacred Site.
Yeah, is he gonna be able to do it right now? I mean, certain he's still using all of his military around the map. He's using a couple of knights to raid on the right side. He has walled the front of his base. However, it looks like SortOf is trying to not even contest the sacred side maybe, but instead look for a push towards it, as he's somewhat moving towards the base of ZertoN right now.
Oh, and we talked about that chapel being forward. That wood line is forward, and he could burn through that quite quickly. And he's on top of the production. He's on top of the chapel farms and that wood line. So it could be a ton of damage going down. I'm not sure if he realizes how much damage he just caused with the smaller men-at-arms mass, as he was clearly focused a little bit on defending from his raid. But breaking through that, whoa, going for an additional good old palisade wall kill.
Looking at the military right now, ZertoN has a lot more Landsknechte compared to SortOf. And that's mostly because Landsknechte don't cost a lot of food. They mostly cost gold. They cost 100 gold and like 60 food. So even if you don't have that much food income anymore, as long as ZertoN still has 1,000 passive gold per minute income right now from the relics and sacred sites, he's still going to be able to produce like 10 of these Landsknechte every single minute.
Yeah, the key here is, though, obviously we see SortOf dropping that siege workshop. He should be going pretty heavily into siege to start trying to deny these keeps. I don't believe ZertoN has connected that middle keep to his emergency repairs yet. He has an outpost. He could try to build some additional production buildings along to do that, or just drop a TC there to give emergency repairs. If not, he's going to need to go back onto stone to be able to keep these... to be able to heal up the keeps and allow them to stay alive.
Now we see first Trebuchet almost coming out here for SortOf. I think maybe a mixture of Trebuchets and Mangonels could be the key here, because Mangonels, they do actually do pretty decently against the enemy Landsknechte, and then you do have your own Spearmen in order to defend them from the cavalry. So that could be an option here for SortOf to kind of use that to his advantage. Now we see first Trebuchet going out and destroying the outpost and then going for that keep.
Yeah, and it looks like a little bit of raids on that wood line or farms where the chapel is over on the side of ZertoN. And at the same time, just continuing, SortOf just going to continue to start pressuring that win condition that ZertoN had, which is the sacred site.
I think at this point, we might also just... It's really tough. In some matchups, you might warrant just pulling a lot of villagers in order to keep your opponent from even just being able to start decapping a sacred site. However, in a game where Landsknechte are a thing, I don't think you want to have like a mass villager pool, because Landsknechte, they do really short work of villagers. Just a couple of hits and suddenly all of those villagers that you might want to have preventing your enemy from decapping that sacred site could find themselves being slain. Also interesting, we see SortOf here using the cavalry charging position, like the arrow formation on his units. So it's an interesting formation because it also means the units are a little bit further spread out. Might work out really well when it comes to fighting with Landsknechte against Landsknechte here.
Yeah, and I talked about, well, first, that second Trebuchet not immediately getting to work for SortOf was unfortunate. He has a third out, though. And ZertoN, we just saw him have about 300 or 400 stone in the bank. It immediately dropped to just about nothing. I'm pretty sure he just traded in and bought some more stone. And yep, he just bought up to 900. So he's either going to try to build another keep or make sure this one stays alive. But 3 Trebuchets firing down. It looks like he has given it up, and he is trying to build another keep on the opposite side of the sacred site. He is down 21 military units. So if SortOf can push forward and just take a head-on trade, will he have enough during this? I'm not so sure if those land snakes on the opposite side get some good swings.
Only one of these players has the Inspired Warriors buff, so that could really come into play here as well. SortOf, he does have some blacksmith upgrades, more than ZertoN has, but that's a big mass of Landsknechte that we have here, and it's split into different groups. This could be either really good for ZertoN or really bad for him, depending on how these Landsknechte take these fights.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Trebuchets are at least firing in the background, and so that will at least be having some sense of a benefit. But oh my god, SortOf's whole army just got demolished.
It's either really bad or it's really good, and it's really good for ZertoN. All the Landsknechte go down. Still 30 Landsknechte remaining here for ZertoN, and the entire army gets wiped from SortOf. There is no way he is decapping any of these sacred sites. I'm calling it now. This game is going to go the way of ZertoN. Yeah. Holy moly, and SortOf agrees. He's giving up now. Man, oh man, that Landsknechte on Landsknechte action there just really swung into one direction and one direction only.
Yeah, I mean, he saw the whole entire army of ZertoN. He knew exactly what he was going into. The problem was just how many of those land snakes there were, and they just got the perfect attacks that the AoE units, when they have that many, it's like when Mangonels get the first fires off. It's like if the Mangonels fire first and kill everything on the opposite side, it didn't matter how strong that opposite side is. And wow, looking at that chart is nuts.
What knife here. Oh my god. At the same time, Kingsmurf coming in with the 10 gifted subs perfectly for that end of the game. Man, oh man, what a fight that we had there at the end. And we see SortOf, he had a lot of food in the bank, but the relic advantage, it just really goes to show here. ZertoN having the firm upper hand when it came to the gold in the bank, and he was just able to produce so many Landsknechte, and in a fight, in a battle where all units go for where the entire army composition is just infantry. Whoever has the most amount of Landsknechte, it's just so good here.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it was pretty crazy. I'm glad that the caster curse didn't ruin the game. ZertoN was able to hold after the crazy raids that came in. But it looks like he did make that right decision. There was, like I said, there's 2 routes that you take when something like that happens. Swabby to recover eco, or go ahead and try to continually end the game with the countdown that you already had. It looks like he was just able to hold that fight, and I mean, after that fight, even if he didn't have Swabby, even if he was behind an eco like he was, it would have been hard for SortOf to end up remassing back up. But we're going in on to the next game. It's game number 4, and it's Chinese versus Abbasid.
This is gonna be a really interesting game here. One of my personal favorites strategies. I mean, I don't really like it that much. I like it in certain matchups, but the Barbican Rush here is not something for the Chinese that they can really pull off against the Abbasid. There's just the early ramps that the Abbasid have access to. With the Barbican Rush, you don't really delay your opponent for long enough. I think there's gonna be mainly contention here. A strategy that I find myself recently use a lot with the Chinese against the Abbasid is just if you spot your opponent going for a third TC, you go all in Jugenu and Spearman, and you just try to push in with the Song Dynasty in the feudal age, and just sit on the enemy's production. Then doesn't work sometimes if your opponent decides to not go for 3 TC but instead go for 2 TC and then mass his own army. But in the case that your opponent goes greedy and he goes for 3rd TC, that strategy can be really, really effective.
Yeah, and not only that, you can kind of compound that with a keep drop, which Chinese keeps, they are quite strong, and they get built quite fast. We know how everyone loves to keep drop the Abbasid especially. So we could end up seeing that come out of the Chinese, as I have seen that a few times in the build, whether it be a faster castle into that, or whether it just be naturally with the build order taking that map control, moving forward, and starting that positioning point.
Yeah, this is gonna be a really interesting matchup in the end. I mean, there is a lot of things going for both players here. Now let's take a look over at the brackets here that we have right now. We see that in the best of 5 between I Am Magic and Divine, it looks like I Am Magic did come out on top. So tomorrow we're gonna be seeing I Am Magic against Caponch, as well as Recon against either ZertoN or SortOf, depending on how this series here goes today.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a really exciting one, as we've already been talking about. I Am Magic series went 2-5 over there with Divine, and will we see another series potentially go to all 5 games? Only time will tell if ZertoN can get the better of SortOf over here with the Abbasid. Like, I mean, the the matchup here with the Abbasid versus Chinese, we've typically been seeing Chinese saved for all of those hybrid maps. But before map and champ select or civilization select, that we said there's not really any hybrid maps here, so it makes it the opportunity for China here.
Exactly. I mean, we did see SortOf put on quite the show with the Abbasid earlier today, and potentially ZertoN could pull it around now. He could try to do a similar show here with the Abbasid of his own. I mean, it's one of the probably, if not the strongest civilization in the game right now. So it's still a really hard matchup. I think China has a lot of things going here for them, but at the same time, I think if Abbasid is able to hold, they have the upper hand when it comes to Castle Age. I think something needs to be going on here in the feudal age. Either that, or the Chinese player just has to have the absolute best build order in the world in order to get to 2TC Song in a really amazing timing here and be able to outboom the Abbasid. But then again, even if you're able to outboom the Abbasid with your villagers, they're gonna have more food in the bank because of the cheaper villagers.
Yeah, it's one of the things, like, people always talk about Chinese being one of the strongest civilizations for Imperial Age, but I put Abbasid right there in the mix. We saw it earlier on with how many units just can be massed up, and they are, as some people call, the king of the trash, because they'll just mass up spears, they'll mass up horsemen, and they don't care about it. They'll just continually throw those into your base, and that's really where China, they rely Imperial Age on gold units. If they start running out of the gold on the map, that's where the late Imperial would kind of tilt back over into the favor of the Abbasid, because, you know, without gold, Chinese doesn't have the profound effect.
Yeah, exactly. China, they do really need that gold in the later stages of the game. They do have the techs in order to help them with that. And I mean, especially when you're able to get your farming economy going with all the granaries, and then you're able to get a lot of tax through the granaries as well. It works out to like being around 500 to 600 gold, depending on how you optimize it per minute in the later stages of the game. So definitely never underestimate the amount of gold that you can get out of the tax in the late game. But yeah, China really one of those civilizations that wants to have a lot of gold in the later stages of the game. I think this match, I think China's win conditions here mostly lie though in the feudal age, either the feudal age or the early imperial age, not the late imperial age, because I think in the later stages of imperial, there's only one strategy that is really working for China, and it's the carpet strategy with the stone walls. Once you get that Great Wall Gatehouse, then your units that are on the walls, they're gonna be buffed. And what I like to do in those situations when you really don't see any other way of winning a game is you lay out that red carpet, you just build the wall straight into the base of your opponent, and you just put your units on top of that. And suddenly you're gonna have hand cannons with 7.5 range that are absolutely demolishing units left, right, front, and center. But then again, in straight up fights in the Imperial Age, I would personally bet my money on the Abbasid.
See, you talking about the Chinese win condition. My Chinese win condition is, okay, Abbasid's super far ahead. I'm just going to mass up Fire Lancers and hope that they don't pay attention to their two landmarks and get a nice old good Fire Lancer snipe coming in from the other side.
Oh man, if that would happen, if we had this game here ending with a Fire Lancer raid on the Abbasid, man, oh man, ZertoN would really, really be mad about that. I could imagine if he wins this, if he loses this entire set due to Fire Lancers here. Being a little bit of a meme unit in the last couple of patches.
It has been a little bit of a meme unit. However, they still have their effect. They're still, if they get to the point where the dynasty does get reached and there's the resources to be utilized to start producing those, I mean, it could make perfect sense here. But, there's always just kind of here's hoping. There's always a wish there because we all know how exciting those landmark snipings can be.
Some banter going in the chat right now between Core and Donati. You love to see it, but I mean, let's also look at what's coming up right now. I mean, we looked at the past Fire Lancers being a little bit of a meme unit. Now with the Spirit Way, they're much more serious of a unit. But in the future, they're also going to get a little buff in the next patch, in the next big update that we're going to have. They're going to get the same amount of Pierce armor that Horsemen have right now.
Yeah. So that actually, I mean, that's kind of one of the big downfalls for those Fire Lancers is they seem like they just can't quite dive under town centers or kind of do some ratings or do anything of that sort. And they're kind of pigeonholed into that more of like a, not necessarily raiding unit, but also killing buildings and having that kind of AoE attack charge come in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you charge and you get like these big explosions with the lancers going off, especially when villagers tend to clump up and the fire lancers just being an excellent raiding unit, if you are able to catch out villagers that clumped up, suddenly you are able to get really big vill kills. But now it seems like we're just about to go into the next game here in our set between ZertoN and SortOf.
Yeah, and let's get this going. I can already hear some foundations getting put down for a building of some sort, and it is a 2-2-2 start coming in from ZertoN on the northwest side as the Abbasid, sort of spawning over in the southeast side as the Chinese, and would expect him to go ahead and be placing that mill on top of the berries, get that IO out. But ooh, going with the little bit of straggler tree. Notice how he didn't finish the mill. He wants to make sure to finish the mill with the 5 villagers that were chopping the straggler tree, because once they finish it, you'll notice the wood get deposited into the bank as they can deposit it on the mill once it just finishes it. And that is kind of one of those small intricacies that you can figure out by watching or playing.
Yeah, there's actually a little bit of trick that I like to do. So we see SortOf, he made a villager before the Imperial Official, but actually something that you can do is if you get the Imperial Official out first and you supervise the mill before it's being built, those 5 villagers that drop the wood off, they're not going to be dropping off 50 wood, they're going to be dropping off the bonus 20% that you get from the from the Imperial official supervising. So if you use all 6 villagers, then you're going to be getting 72 wood instead of just the normal 60 or 50, depending on how many villagers you send to the straggler tree at the beginning. And that amount of wood actually enables you to get a really early village out.
See, this is why you hear someone who actually plays the civilization casted. Because me on Chinese, I'm like, I know you start early on the mill. I know you get the IO out. I know you start picking up taxes. But you know, little small intricacies is really what can give you that extra foothold over your opponent, and really what takes you to elevate to the next level.
There's a lot of tricky Chinese builds at the moment. I mean, it's kind of weird with the interactions that the Imperial official gives you, but I mean, the Chinese, they are a really difficult civilization to play. They have so many different strengths and weaknesses, and it's really a civilization that has a lot of depth when it comes to their like different strategies. Just because you're able to like build all of your landmarks, there are a lot of different approaches to the civilization. But the same could be said for the Abbasid. With all of the different technologies, all of the different options with the wings that you have, there's also a lot of things that you could go for with that civilization.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Although I would say we should expect to see the economic wing into the culture wing. But if we get some differences, I won't complain. You see some early military wing come out every now and then in the Third Age rather than the culture wing. And I know the Mista used to build early culture wing, but that was on Four Lakes when he had a build that he kind of, I guess, would be the only one that he really utilized, which was that early culture wing fishing boom.
I mean, with the way the markets work, I could also be seeing an early trade wing here, but probably not going to be the case here in this game.
You know, the thing about trade is it always sounds like such a cool and good idea, and then it just, whenever it attempts to be utilized, it's so easy to be denied early on. It's why you really only see trade come out once there's already walls fully out on the map and resource nodes being fully depleted, and kind of that, oh, I need gold, it's about to be out, I'm going to start trading.
I'm blaming Stonewalls being banned in the feudal age for the reason why trade isn't a thing at the moment.
I'd be the one. I'd rather have Stonewalls banned in the feudal age. So we can keep on with that. Imperial Palace going down nice and early. It's gonna have that influence on the mill, influence on the lumber camp as well, and can start pumping out Imperial officials from there rather than his TC. Although I still would expect him to probably go for Song Dynasty before he starts getting too many Imperial officials out.
Yeah, it usually does make sense to go for the Song Dynasty first. It means that you're a little bit more flexible with what you're going for. It doesn't look like SortOf is going to go for that, though. I mean, it is going to be a fast Song Dynasty here before he gets the second TC out, but he already has some villagers on wood right now. So it's not going to be a full committal to a fast Dynasty. Rather, it's going to be like a little bit of a mixture. He's probably going to get the Dynasty and the second TC at not a big discrepancy here when it comes to timing. Sending 2 villagers out right now, though. I guess this is going to be potentially a Barbican, where he tries to place the Barbican next to a boar and then gather from that. I don't think that with 2 villagers... Wait, is there more villagers?
There looks to be... Oh, it's a scout. It's a scout. Looks to...
Behind the scout. 3 villagers. Okay, never mind. That's still not a big difference maker there. It's just going to be a Barbican here. Could potentially be taking a boar with that, though.
Yeah, he could position it a little bit further forward, but I think he doesn't want to overstep. He wants to make sure he gets that Barbican down. Well, Barbican, as you're saying, down, but would like it to be a little bit more forward, as he would secure up the sacred site, he'd secure up that boar, and would secure up a relic as well in the long term.
So this is just going to be the standard 2TC Song Dynasty play here from SortOf. ZertoN, at the same time, he can just go for the standard 3TC Abbasid play. And in the end, the 3TC Abbasid play is going to be better just because of the amount of food that you're going to be saving up with that cheaper villagers.
Yeah, and second TC, dropping it right next to the stone. I like that play by ZertoN because he's able to immediately drop it without any walking time, immediately get right back onto the stone. Sometimes you'll see players, when they're going with that 3TC build, that they'll actually pull their food vills to build the second TC and then start sending back to food, and then the third TC is already ready to be dropped. But this is another way you'll see the Abbasid do it every now and then.
And there we go. Boar is being attacked by the Barbican. That means that there's going to be a lot of potential food waiting here for... Oh, I don't... No, you can't pull it that far back. It's just going to de-aggro every time and regenerate HP. No, he finished the mill! You can't finish that mill. There's a fixed amount of distance that ball can go, and it cannot go that far.
Well, he's going to have to build another mill. That's 50 wood. Fortunately, it won't, I don't believe, will delay his second town center. As he basically with the next drop off will be able to drop that 2 TC song as well as having enough. Moving out with the villagers off of stone. And no, he's actually 50 wood short exactly how much that mill is.
Oh, the perfect mill order now being delayed here a little bit. It definitely hurts seeing that, but oh well. I mean, TC is going to be built now, so he's going to have his 3 TCs before ZertoN will. ZertoN, at the same time, he's going to move out and build his 3rd TC now as well. So all looking good here. Both players are going to be at roughly 3 TC. ZertoN is going to be at 3 TC. SortOf is going to be at 3.2-ish kind of TCs. So pretty much looking equal here. However, at the same time, ZertoN, he is going to benefit from that fresh foodstuffs. His villagers are going to be much, much cheaper here in the game.
Yeah, the big effect is always, for Chinese to think about with 2 TC Song Dynasty is just going to be how much food investment this costs. Luckily, he's on top of the boar, so that's a nice 2K food that he will have a very, very fast and efficient gathering rate, although he could have one more villager on top of it. Well, actually, even more, but to each his own over here. However, you know, he has at least delayed himself from transitioning into the necessary, you know, granary farm eco that we'll see later on, as he has had a couple different secondary food sources that he's already secured with 2nd DC and with his Barbican.
Like some walls are also going to be coming out here at this point in time from SortOf, and we see SortOf, he has really been proactive in these last couple of games when it comes to walling early, when it comes to securing his own part of the map, and it really goes to show like these different approaches when it comes to some players just really liking to play in an open style match. And it looks like ZertoN this time is also adopting it a little bit earlier with the walls. He's trying to wall off some of these chokes. Also goes for a little bit of a long wall, walling off the entire right-hand side of the map there. I mean, he does have the wood for it right now, obviously. He has gathered a lot of wood. He's also made a stable, so he's going to be making a couple of horsemen here, trying to maybe prod at some of the economy positions here from SortOf. But SortOf already has a barracks of his own, so he will be able to respond to that.
Yeah, and I really do like the wall that we're seeing built right here on the southern side, and the reason being is just the resources behind it. There's a big gold node, there's another set of berries, there's a massive wood line, and there's only a small little cliff that's behind all of his TCs and behind his base, so he should easily be able to keep any villagers behind this wall, gathering up those resources secure. At the same time, SortOf has a scout denying the wall from finishing up for ZertoN, and can maybe send a spearman over there to not allow that wall to go up.
Villager that built the wall sadly did go down to the bitey infantry, and now the wall from ZertoN is actually going to be denied by SortOf. He had a scout there blocking the wall from happening, and then also sent a spearman over there. Archer range, I think, is already built for SortOf though, so he can just go into either archers or maybe just some camel archers in order to be mobile and do some damage on the run. Looks like he's going to go up really, really soon here, and this is where the economy difference comes in for the Abbasid compared to the Chinese. The Abbasid, they're able to get to the castle age much more comfortably with that reduced villager cost, and I mean, SortOf, he's not going to be far behind, and he's able to rush up that landmark much quicker with his Chinese bonus here to the building speed. But at the same time, once ZertoN goes up to castle age, he's gonna have a lot of food in the bank. Meanwhile, with the Chinese, once you go up to castle age, you might not be in such a good position food-wise. You're gonna be, I mean, you're gonna be on all the natural resources, but those run out really, really fast for you. And ZertoN, he has a lot more food access with those berries being, having just a little bit more capacity with those mills from the Abbasid.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I remember when those mills used to give a lot more food bonuses on those berries, and it got nerfed a little bit, and it still feels like it's so much more food for the Abbasid, as it feels like you don't have to expand on the secondary food sources as much. And part of the reason is because of fresh foodstuffs, but at the same time, that berry bonus does help significantly.
especially on a map like Lipany. It's just berries for other civilizations, they tend to be really slow to gather from. For the Abbasid, they're better than the deer even, without getting the survival techniques upgraded. Now we see sort of hitting the next age. He's immediately queuing up Palace Guards and Crossbowmen. Probably the most common used mixture of units here in the game in this matchup. I think ZertoN could also go for a similar type composition here. However, right now it looks like he only has his archery rangers and his stables.
Yep, double broadaxe coming through for ZertoN. It's already come through for SortOf, as well as the first food upgrade coming in for SortOf. Masked up a lot of those military units, but wall still has not been able to go down for ZertoN, and SortOf is already building. Is that a proactive outpost to make sure that that wall doesn't go up right in front of it?
Ooh, the monastery has already been built from SortOf, and yeah, it does look like the outpost is going to be able to deny that wall off at least for a little bit here. Are there already the Palace Guards coming in? Those Palace Guards, they tend to be really fast, so that could be a definite denial here on the wall off, and there is the Palace Guard is coming in. Crossbowman in there as well, could stop that wall from taking place, and indeed the wall is not going to go up fully here.
Yeah, and men-at-arms popping out for ZertoN, and SortOf is already ready and waiting with a couple crossbows there already in queue. Has his full 4 Imperial officials, which is the max number, just supervising various spots, picking up gold, doing everything that their job is.
Knight now also on the field. Really good unit to have right now at this point in the game when there are not a lot of units on the side of SortOf. He doesn't have a lot of crossbowmen, so he's not going to be able to really field a lot of aggression against this Knight.
But he just pulled into his full surround. Oh, he almost just walked into a free full surround there. SortOf, though, is starting to still mass up those Palace Guards. Spearmen are chasing down that Lancer on the opposite side, and he wants to make sure that this wall does not finish up because he wants to pressure ZertoN.
Exactly, and I think this is really going to be where it's going to be difficult for SortOf, though, because ZertoN, with the access to the berries, he's going to be able to field a lot more military here in the long run. SortOf now, he has to think about a transition to farms. He is placing down his granaries, but it's going to be a pretty big investment here for SortOf to get those granaries out, and at the same time, ZertoN, he doesn't need to make those that farm transition right now. He can keep fielding military.
Yeah, and I think he still has another set of berries behind his walls. I think he just moved on over to some more deer. And just how you said, SortOf, he's just a little bit kind of more necessary to run on over to those granaries.
Ooh, that was so close. Horseman invading the Wololo, now being able to take down that monk, and that means that relic is not going to go the way of SortOf here.
Yep, Barbican helping out a little bit as the Springleton placement has come through. On top of that, villagers jump inside to help out a little bit more. ZertoN securing up the first relic for himself. SortOf's trying to bring back those 2 relics that he has grabbed up in first, and is moving on to those granaries with about 10 or so farms being dropped to start off, but would expect to see some more coming in.
Springleton placement also on that forward outpost. Fortification also did come in here, so that's going to be a pretty big defense point here for SortOf. And ZertoN right now, he does have enough stone in order to drop a keep, and we might be seeing a keep drop here soon. I think what he could do right now as well is just go through the left side. He does have access to rams as well, but it does look like he wants to siege on the right side.
Yeah, just sticking with that crossbow mass. Look at SortOf, though, building walls on the eastern side, yet another outpost, getting a nest of bees into the mix, and grabbing up another relic for himself, as he has brought back in that first one of those relics that he had grabbed on earlier.
Yeah, will that horseman be able to finish off that priest in time?
So.
It looks like the crossbows are going to be able to defend.
God.
Really close there.
Yeah, double ransom come out for ZertoN, but he is so heavy onto the ranged units. He has some men-at-arms, he has some lancers, but if the Nest of Bees numbers gets up to 2 or 3 or 4, it's going to be hard for ZertoN to actually start putting pressure onto this Chinese economy. The Barbican is very hard to take down, even with 2 rams, especially once the Springleton placement has come in on top of it.
And we already hear the Nest of Fleas firing upon that wooden gate. More ramps are now being built here by ZertoN, but I'm not sure what exactly they're going to be accomplishing, as both players are massing up military right now. ZertoN a little bit in the military lead, 46 to 35. He does have the knights on the left-hand side, but that's exactly where they are, the left-hand side. They're not with the main army.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, 4 Rams coming out on the side of ZertoN doesn't really scare me if I'm SortOf. You know, you have a ton of palace guards. You have you're getting your own cavalry units. You have Nest of Bees and you have a Springled. Once you get a couple Springleds, it's amazing what the range can end up doing to Rams as well.
And now SortOf also making use of the fact that ZertoN wasn't able to complete that wall. He's sending a couple of horsemen into the economy, just looping them into the base around the right side. And Knights right now trying to open up a hole here in the wall of ZertoN. Horsemen are able to stop that shaman or monk from capping that sacred site.
That one spear just getting some extra good little damage in, but SortOf just not quite investing enough to deny that wall from going down. So he will have an exposed hole into his eco. So I'd expect ZertoN to start kind of massing up some more horsemen, some more lancers to just run right through that into the Chinese eco.
Yeah, I mean, he now had the scout in there as well, so he does know where all of the production buildings for his opponents are. So maybe he could he has the stone for a keep, even the stone maybe for 2 keeps here in a little bit. If he just runs in there and drops the keep there, he could deny all of the production buildings for SortOf, but doesn't look like he's doing that. He's really determined to go for that right-hand side. Now stone walls are going to be coming in for SortOf.
Yep, the Rams finally pushing through. SortOf's falling back a little bit, but this is at a point in time where SortOf has now evened out those military numbers a little bit. The 4 Rams are moving forward. Villagers attempting to build an outpost in the South Forest should get taken down. And the Barbican is going to be the main thing focused on. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, is the Nest of Bees hitting? Couple going off. However, it's going to be taken down by the Springles in just a little bit, maybe. There we go.
Yeah, there it is, but it's not before it got a good amount of damage on top of those crossbows. The Rams are starting to get taken down. The Springle on the opposite side for SortOf did not focus down too much early on, as the 2 Springles on the opposite side took it down quite quick. Barbican still not quite on fire, as right as I say that, it starts getting taken down. ZertoN trying to move forward onto the berries near that location as well, but he has looked to lose this fight pretty heavily, as his military number is down at 28 and SortOf's up at 65, and this is how SortOf won the other 2 previous games in the series, was just outmassing and continue to mass up. Just non-stop produce, get to 200 population, which he is almost at, and just non-stop send horsemen into the opposite side.
SortOf had finished his farm transition at this point as well. There's going to be a lot of food in him now. He's going to be able to spam units non-stop at this point.
Where's ZertoN's food? It still shows him having a little bit right now, but he is on to the last berry bush, and he is on top of the last couple deer, I believe, on that 3rd TC too. Oof.
This is not looking too good right now, and now the stone walls are also going to be completed here for SortOf. The entire left-hand side is completely secured with those stone walls, and military-wise, SortOf is way ahead right now. ZertoN sitting at 150 economy population, meanwhile SortOf on 200 out of 200. This is looking really good for the Chinese players right now. So the beautiful granaries here as well. Not the most ideal placement, but definitely enough to have them work at a really high rate of efficiency.
ZertoN's going up to Imperial Age, and at the same time is making that full-on farm transition. So he's feeling pretty good, but SortOf, he's going to be able to go up to Imperial Age at any point in time now, as he is not able to continue to produce units, being at max population, and his Imperial Age can get built quite a bit faster, and he is also the one who's looking to pressure ZertoN's eco, whereas his whole entire side is nice, safe, and secured behind multiple layers of walls at this point, other than I think just one little spot that ZertoN could slip through.
And military numbers are heavily in favor of SortOf right now, and at this rate, SortOf is going to reach Imperial Age first, and this really doesn't feel good. You're behind in military, you're going to be behind in economy at this point as well.
How many villagers are just running for the hills?
Oh no, ZertoN is now placing a keep in the back of a space in between the farms, but the military, it's just not there. He's not going to be able to protect his economy at this point.
Oh, that keeps might not even go up. Even if it does, at what cost?
It's not night, so this keep definitely will go up. Yeah, it does cost him quite a bit right now. He's 10 villagers, 13 villagers behind, but now SortOf is sitting on the entire production buildings here from ZertoN, and now ZertoN, he can't really make any military. He's only on 33 military right now anyways, but if he makes military out of these buildings, they're just gonna get sniped immediately. Mangonel does pop out and could potentially get some huge shots going up. Crossbowman though.
Yeah, good first shot. With the amount of stone SortOf has in the bank, this is the spot where I expect him to move forward for one of those aggressive keep drops on the Abbasid. Crossbows, spearmen, denying that forward wood line. There is more than enough wood behind in the north side corner for ZertoN, but it's quite a bit of walking time. He needs some of these resources now, as we're talking about the military mass that he needs to start queuing back up.
Yeah, and this is looking really bad right now for ZertoN. Just looking at the food income right now, the granaries are really paying off. He's also getting the upgrades from the Spirit Ray right now for a reduced price. So this is really bad right now for ZertoN, economically and militarily.
Tithe Barns coming on in just for some extra resources into the mix. And I mean, this is that chokehold though. Chinese, I would expect this to have been on the opposite side right now, earlier on with the Abbasid being able to mass back up, but it was actually Chinese who was able to mass up harder and kind of have that payoff timing. He is SortOf everywhere all across the eco of ZertoN and just not going to let him breathe. The overall population number, it's down at 135. SortOf again, he's going to sit at 200 population and he won't drop below it for like the next 10 minutes, it feels like.
We'll keep now going up for ZertoN, but it really feels like he's just not going to be able to mass enough military here. There's just so many units coming out of ZertoN space at the moment.
Yeah, and all of the eco for ZertoN, he's got 37 idled vills right now. You might say, yeah, he's not down that much, but 37 idled, whereas SortOf's all his vills are working nice and fine. Horsemen find another set of villagers that are running on back, and so just more and more just damage coming down.
Now we also see the Fire Lancers coming in here, so might potentially even be a landmark sniper at some point in the game. This is looking not the best right now, and we also see a lot. Wait, are these even Fire Lancers? They look like no, they don't have rockets on their Lancers. Never mind, those are just normal horsemen. They look really similar though.
Yeah, you know, I'd love to see a good old Fire Lancer snipe as we talked about earlier, but I don't even think that's necessary at this point in time for SortOf. He can just continue to pressure down behind that eco, continue to just send those units in. Oh my gosh, Imperial Palace, you know what that means.
That means Fire Lancers. We might be getting to see it here.
That does mean Fire Lancers coming out.
Wait. Can anybody else still hear Drdabston? I suddenly can't hear him anymore. Oh, there you are. You suddenly just tune out there for me there for a second.
Oh, that's odd, but no, yeah, Fire Lancer should be coming out. ZertoN's trying to wall up himself with some stone walls behind, as he has seen how much damage has been coming out from these horsemen, but looks to be transitioning onto, was that heavy stables production himself?
Yeah, it's a lot of stables now being dropped here from ZertoN. At the same time, it's really weird seeing his food economy being in such a bad spot right now. He has all the food upgrades from his mill. Meanwhile, SortOf, he is still lacking the last food upgrade, but he has almost double the amount of food income.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it just shows you the strength of granaries for the Chinese, whereas ZertoN, he clearly hasn't transitioned heavy enough onto all of the farms on the backside, as he was definitely later on that transition than SortOf was.
Yeah, now we see hand cannoneers on hand cannoneers go. So, however, one side is going to have decidedly the better hand cannoneers, with the Chinese here having 1.5 tiles extra range. As soon as the pyrotechnics upgrade is going to come in, it's being researched right now. ZertoN really wants to take this fight though, but I'm not sure if it's going to go his way here though.
No, I don't think so. He wants to definitely try to keep alive, but it is slowly getting taken down by that trebuchet. Has some villagers spending some stone to heal it up. SortOf, though, is just consistently massing up units here, staying at 200 population. ZertoN, he doesn't have the resources in the bank to match SortOf's production on the other side.
And this is just looking worse and worse here right now. I think he did grab his upgrade at this point in time to also upgrade the farms. I mean, certain, he definitely must have grabbed that upgrade from the House of Wisdom. It does increase the gathering from the farms by a lot. He's getting close now to 3,000 food per minute as well. So he might actually be at a point where he could come back. There's a lot of military here left behind from SortOf that's not being used right now. And this kind of gives ZertoN a little bit of breathing room here to come back.
Yeah, he's secured up his eco. He's finished the walls up. We said that Chinese, you know, they have that earlier Imperial Age aggression, but once it gets to later, that's where Abbasid can really take advantage of spamming out the trash units, whereas Chinese, they might have a little bit struggle as you notice the gold in the bank for SortOf is down at 90.
Now we also see a couple of Camel Riders here. Camel Riders, they're the best light infantry in the game. They have a lot of DPS even in melee range, much more than the Horsemen at least, so that's definitely a unit that's able to compete with units like the crossbows. However, right now, looking at the army composition from SortOf, there's a lot of Zhuge Nu in here right now as well, and they don't have that much pierce armor in comparison to like Horsemen, and those Zhuge Nu, they can do a lot of damage here as well right now.
I think a Culverin came in and just sniped out that Trebuchet, so Keep stays up in the middle, but at the same time, SortOf finishes up a Keep on that middle sacred side himself, and has broken through the eastern side walls. At one point he did, and could go for some raiding over there.
Yeah, that could become really detrimental. The walls were attempted to be rebuilt, however, those villagers did go down probably to the bombard. And right now, there's just going to be horsemen coming in and raiding ZertoN's economy on the right-hand side.
Yep, villagers getting taken down trying to build walls. If this is one of those things that, you know, if one person has their eco secured and the other person does not, that is going to always favor the person that doesn't have to spend APM and you know, and think about constantly having to protect their villagers.
Yeah, SortOf has just beautiful base building here right now. He set himself up for like the perfect position. He has walled the left-hand side. He has kept all the aggression on the right-hand side. So he's not going to be raided at all. He doesn't even have the right-hand side walled in at all. He's that confident right now that he is not going to be pushed back at this point in time, that now that he's focusing all of his attention on the right-hand side. Military a little bit idle here for ZertoN. He's just not really sure right now where to put it best at the moment. And it's situations like these that can be really hard in the later stages of the game if your opponent is able to raid you, but at the same time you're not able to raid your opponent.
Yeah, it does feel at least okay in the sense for a while ago when we looked, SortOf was sitting at 200 pop and ZertoN was down at like 120, 130 and has been able to secure himself up. He needs to move. Okay, there we go. He has his fire lancers were in the, or horsemen were in the way to block out the rest of those units from pushing on through.
And now we have a keep going up there for SortOf, so that wall is not gonna get completed again for quite some time. Now military is going inside of the base of ZertoN, and he's just gonna be able to do a lot of damage there.
Yeah, it's looking like a war of attrition right now. Gold is starting to be running out, I would say, for ZertoN over the side of SortOf, as SortOf has multiple gold nodes behind his base that he hasn't even touched yet and hasn't tapped into. Takes down a significant amount of vills on that gold mine as well, but both of these players are still sitting very nice and happy with the amount of resources and amount of villagers that they have.
ZertoN finally going for some raids of his own, and this is really important. Against the Chinese, their economy, at least their food economy, is always going to be condensed around those granaries. There's always going to be that one single point where the entire food economy for the Chinese players is going to be. So that is always going to tell you where you should be raiding. And exactly that is what we can see here as the horsemen are now diving onto the villagers that are around the granaries.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that people always forget about. They're like, oh, they feel okay with some of the walls, but it was a Barbican protecting up that middle spot and not walls. So there was a spot to run through, and ZertoN at this point in the game doesn't care if a couple horsemen go down and they're run by to try to get to a point that they need to.
Trebuchet a little bit too close to that keep, now has to back off again. Yeah, it's just ZertoN, he didn't really get too much value here. He was able to kill a couple of villagers, but SortOf, he didn't even feel the need to pull his villagers back or anything like that. He just kept them from gathering. He just kept them gathering and just is going to replenish the numbers there. And now we see a huge amount of army here from SortOf in the base of ZertoN, and it's going to be much more value gained there, I think.
Yeah, and I believe he finished up that keep that was on the side of ZertoN over there on the northeast, and could probably just continue to try to raid all of the gold over there and kind of have that as his point. He has a bomber there. He can start taking down the keep on the opposite side super fast.
I think ZertoN really needs to set up his trade within like the next 2 minutes. He definitely is struggling for gold right now. He has a lot of food in the bank, he has a lot of stone, a lot of wood in the bank. However, the only thing that he's missing right now is gold. He just doesn't have enough gold here in order to really make anything with those other resources that he has. He is also trying to siege down that keep that was being placed here from SortOf earlier. And I mean, with all the stone that he has, he could drop another keep towards the right-hand side of the map and then go for a little bit of a trade here, because with the Abbasid, your traders are significantly cheaper compared to other civilizations.
Yeah, I keep thinking that, you know, you just said he had a ton of food, ton of wood, which he just spent a ton, but he is on horsemen and camel archers, and that was going to be the unit composition that I was going to suggest. That's normally what you will see out of the Abbasid later on, is spearmen, horsemen, and camel archers, and then use all of their gold for siege. So the food and the wood goes all into your units, and then your wood and gold goes towards your siege, and it just allows you to support so much because of what happens when your farms are fully turned online with all of the bonuses you get, including Golden Age.
Colrin going a little bit too far forward. The Chinese keeps, they do a lot of damage to siege, and that Colrin goes down in 3 shots.
Yeah, you talked about gold hurting, and gold hurts even more when you're throwing away your highest gold units, really.
These Chinese keeps, they do hit differently. Each single shot, like they fire a round of 3 shots, these Chinese keeps, every time they fire, and every single shot does 50 damage. It's a lot of single target damage going out there. Bomba does go down though to the horseman here. Good pickup.
Yeah, good pickup there. Obviously the horsemen are low down, but ZertoN doesn't care about horsemen right now with the amount of food and wood that he has. The gold villagers just get runned on by. There is an additional keep that has gone down for ZertoN, so both of these players have keeps all over the map, but who is going to kind of end up getting the foothold over their opponent? Looks like the middle keep on the sacred site is about to go down. Sort of might have been going for a little bit of attempted sacred site victory, but I don't think that will be too easily with the sacred site locations.
Oh, it's happening. We're seeing more and more fire lenses now being made from SortOf. 6 on the map right now, and could potentially be escalating that number and go for a little bit of a destruction kind of play on the infrastructure of ZertoN with those fire lances having the significantly increased torch damage. I think it's like 40 damage with every single torch attack.
Yeah, it's one of those that we could easily end up seeing a little bit extra security coming on the western sacred site for SortOf. Not really sure why he's massing up units behind his walls in all the way south, but it's just going to still continue to send horsemen as well as fire lancers around to the opposite side base.
These players having an insane amount of food right now in the bank. Now we also see the Great Wall Gatehouse coming in here for SortOf. That's going to protect that side. However, it is going to get sieged down by the trebuchets there.
That does mean, though, that grenadiers can start coming out. And being a Chinese player, do you think, I know that the range got nerfed quite a bit, but if you can afford them, is that something that you would transition to at this point?
I wouldn't say so, at least not against the composition that ZertoN has right now. If there was a lot more infantry like spearmen or men-at-arms, then yes, I would go for it. Just because they do still do really well in that matchup. However, they also got a lot of other nerfs, not just the range, but also the amount of spread on their attacks. So I think with the current composition, I wouldn't really advise. Maybe go just for like a couple, just to discourage your opponent from clumping up units. And if they do clump up, you are able to punish that with the grenadiers. But other than that, I wouldn't really advise going for the grenadiers here. Something important to note right now, though, the Great Wall Gatehouse is probably one of the strongest landmarks in the game right now. It's actually able to take down 2 keeps if you place it in range of keeps. It has so much damage output, like just a single Great Wall Gatehouse, and you're able to take down 2, maybe even 3 keeps if they don't have placements on them.
Yeah, and the Great Wall Gatehouse being super effective. The middle keep for ZertoN finally gets taken out by SortOf, and SortOf dives in the back line and gets a couple more siege picks on the other side. One thing that we can go ahead and mention though, ZertoN has started his trade. So trade is starting to come online for ZertoN. I think I saw about 5 or so 5 markets right around that trade route, and has a market on the opposite side to have them have a quicker and more efficient trip.
Yeah, you really got to make use of every single trick in the book right now if you do want to win this game. It's a really, really tough one right now, sort of just having the absolute economic lead here for most of the time in the game right now. But I think ZertoN with the trade is definitely in a position to potentially come back from this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to kind of see how this game is just turned on its head upside down. While the trade was being set up, though, it does feel like ZertoN is kind of losing his foothold on the map. He's starting to lose out some of these positionings. It feels like SortOf is just moving a little bit further forward. He's taken out a couple trebuchets. He's taken out a couple keeps, a couple of these wall structures, and that will allow him to raid not only from the northeast side like he had been doing, but now from the south and the west.
Also, something important to note is that these units here right now in front for ZertoN, they're not on the wall. They were in front of the gate, so they were actually able, like, SortOf was able to take fights with those hand cannoniers. If only ZertoN put those on the walls, he wouldn't have lost as many hand cannoniers there as he ultimately did.
Very, very quick and proactive wall coming out for ZertoN. He needs to make sure to keep his trade online that he had just started on out. And if SortOf can get into that trade and disrupt the trade, that this is really where it's going to be, you know, the beginning of the end.
SortOf is really, really trying to finish this game off. It feels really tough for him right now. He is trying to attack his opponent from all sides. However, ZertoN is just able to stay in the game at every point and turn. And it really goes to show right now that Bassett, in this later stage of the game, they're still in it right now. And it feels like SortOf really, really tried here. Like, he really went for it. But now, ZertoN, he is kind of stabilizing.
Yeah, the only thing is it feels like ZertoN has a little too much eco. It feels like only having 60 total military units against what's going on is really spreading him thin. He's not really able to clear up these raids, and he's just remassing up more eco and military, and isn't able to ever get his foothold enough forward to stabilize and then push back.
Yeah, we're now also seeing a lot of barracks being dropped from ZertoN. The thing is, ZertoN already did grab camel support, so if he gets some men-at-arms out now, these are going to be super, super tanky. They're going to be having a lot of pierce armor, and I think it's 5 + 2 + 3, so it means that they're going to be having 10 pierce armor and 10 melee armor. They're going to be much stronger than palace guards here when it comes to straight-up fights. Bombards being taken down by some of these knights here. This is actually not looking too bad. I mean, the raids aside, the raids definitely do hurt ZertoN here, but ZertoN still has 3 TC, so any villagers going down he could replenish, but it also means that he's going to have more population room for military.
Yeah, I think him losing villagers right now is a benefit for him, because he's swapping off onto traders, and like I said, I think he needs more military population to be able to kind of stabilize this push that's coming out.
SortOf is now probably going to go for a keep forward here. He has a lot of villagers, could place a keep really, really quickly. I think the villagers are being a little bit too greedy, though, the way that they're marching forward here.
Yeah, I think he wants to go around and get an outpost on the trade, and he's just throwing them away. Yeah,
not gonna happen.
It is a keep on the trade. Please, just don't even start it. Cancel. Okay, good. At least he canceled the foundation. It wasn't just 800 stone thrown down the drain, because stone at this point in time for these players, there's no more stone on the map. So that's it.
Yeah, and this is going to be really, really difficult now. I'm not sure if ZertoN grabbed the trade wing at any point. I hope he didn't, because it's a really big investment at this point in time. He might be able to grab it in just a little bit of time when he stabilizes even more, but right now it's looking good for him. He has a lot of military out on the field, a lot of hand cannoneers, and he's able to keep SortOf at bay. And behind all of this, the trade is just going to keep being there for him. He's going to have a lot of gold. Meanwhile, it doesn't look like SortOf has even started thinking about going for trading here. He still has a lot of gold in his base that he can access, but that's not going to be there forever.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is ZertoN. He had a couple thousand resources in the bank. He's starting to run a little bit lower as he is just non-stop producing. He's got tons of stuff in queue. I think he is on top of his last safe wood line all the way on the northern side.
Yeah, wood is also going to be running low here for this for ZertoN. I mean, this is really where the trade wing though could come in and help him if he's able to choose a secondary resource for his traders to return. That could be really, really big for him. Now it looks like ZertoN is going to get pushed back a little bit here. The meat shield for SortOf is going to come in, and yeah, the hand cannoneers just aren't able to break through there in time.
You know, we're finally starting to see the transition into spears for ZertoN, which, as the Abbasid would expected to see it earlier, considering SortOf has just been non-stop massing up horsemen and fire lancers, it seems.
Against the units right now, I think you could also just make men-at-arms. There's a lot of Jugunu, so making men-at-arms that don't take a lot of damage from these Jugunu would really be beneficial. We also see Coldrain up on the hill being able to take down that Bombard, if only it just started firing on it. Yeah, there we go. Now starting to fire upon that Bombard.
The villager...
But it went into close and is going to get taken down first.
Just absolutely explosion there, SortOf. He's just slowly inching his way up closer and closer and closer. He's sitting at 200 pop. He's got 50, 60, 70 units in queue already, whereas ZertoN has 14. This might finally be it. Can SortOf keep pushing through? Will he be able to not allow ZertoN a way back into this game?
At the same time, ZertoN, he's sitting on over 4,000 food per minute. And, I mean, a lot of the production buildings here are now being sieged down, but he still has the resource to add more production buildings. And now we see the Grenadiers, just a couple of Grenadiers here and there taking down the farms.
Yeah, exactly. It's just all sorts of different units, all sorts of different, total variety of unit compositions from SortOf. He's just throwing anything and everything into the mix, damaging tons and tons of eco. But the problem for ZertoN now isn't the eco, it's the military. He has 30 military units in the bank, and it just fell to 24 in just no time. 22, it's just continuing to drop. Town centers are about to start going down, and I would expect SortOf to push through and go for an ending here soon.
Just looking absolutely solid here from SortOf. Just non-stop aggression coming in here in the base of ZertoN. He's just sitting close to the production buildings here, taking down a lot of them and not letting ZertoN here breathe in order to remass his army. And he's gonna call it. ZertoN is calling GG. This set is going the way of SortOf here with a 3-1.
Wow, and I think that a lot of people would say that that is an upset out of SortOf over here. So huge job. SortOf playing a great series. And if you learned anything from the series from SortOf, it tells you that military mass wins games. Just nonstop throw military into your opponent. And if your opponent can't sustain, can't react, and can't hold, then that will just be the end of it.
Yeah, all of these games were insanely well played by SortOf. It wasn't even that in some situations these games were really close, but it felt like SortOf was in control in pretty much every single game here, apart from the HRA mirror.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. There were multiple times where it felt like ZertoN was always trying to claw his way back in, and that's not a position that you want to find yourself in, is trying to claw your way back in. You want to be the one being the aggressor. You want to be the one having fun sending nonstop military into your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the first game, the Mongol mirror SortOf just absolutely demolishing ZertoN there with his military prowess. And in the second game, it was the English against the Abbasid, with the Abbasid just being able to field way more military than, and also then again, just taking really good fights. And in the HRE game, it was a sacred side victory for ZertoN. But now in this game, China against the Abbasid, SortOf was just able to get the faster food transition in and just keep flooding units nonstop in the Imperial Age.